Chapter 11:14. So fast. Yi Hao was stunned when he heard Yin Liang's words. After all, the four great kingdoms were close to the Tianyuan kingdom, so he wasn't surprised that they had come so quickly. However, the Fire Beacon dynasty was very far away from the Tianyuan kingdom. Therefore, he was surprised that the Fire Beacon dynasty had come to the Tianyuan kingdom so early. Did I hear wrongly? The Fire Beacon dynasty is here? Why would the Fire Beacon dynasty come to the Tianyuan kingdom? Could it be that the Fire Beacon dynasty is the backer of the Tianyuan kingdom? The people of the four great kingdoms were shocked when they heard that the Fire Beacon dynasty had come to the Tianyuan kingdom. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. After all, they were very familiar with the Fire Beacon dynasty, so familiar that they couldn't be more familiar with it. They could even say that the Fire Beacon dynasty was their superior. Every year, they had to pay a salary to the Fire Beacon dynasty, and they had to live according to the Fire Beacon dynasty's wishes. If the Fire Beacon dynasty was angry with them, even if the four great kingdoms joined forces, they wouldn't be a match for the Fire Beacon dynasty. It was possible that as long as the Fire Beacon dynasty stomped its foot, the four kingdoms would be destroyed. This was because they had heard of a saying before. In the dynasty, devil emperors were everywhere, and devil emperors were as numerous as dogs. Even the legendary Atman body-level cultivators in the kingdom were not few in number in the empire. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with complicated feelings. If the Fire Beacon dynasty really stood behind the Tianyuan kingdom, then they wouldn't dare to provoke them. Ha ha ha, little brat of the Tianyuan kingdom, come out. At this moment, arrogant laughter sounded in the hall. Then, a middle-aged man walked into the hall with a group of people. Impudent! How dare you barge into the hall without His Majesty's permission? Yin Liang was enraged when he saw that the people had barged in without waiting for Yi Hao's permission. Ha! A mere emperor of a kingdom dares to call himself His Majesty in front of me? You really don't know your place. The middle-aged man couldn't help but laugh disdainfully. This is the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty, Wei Zilong. At this moment, a golden robe guard behind the middle-aged man stepped forward and shouted, SSS. It's actually the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty. The crown prince of the Fire Beacon empire actually came to the Tianyuan kingdom. I heard that the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty is the most outstanding prince among the emperors of the Fire Beacon dynasty. He is also the prince that the Fire Beacon dynasty dotes on the most. When the crowd heard the middle-aged man's identity, they were all shocked again. I am Jinnan Wang of the Yin Song Kingdom. Greetings, Your Highness. I am the Grand Marshal of Kanglin Kingdom. Greetings to Your Highness, the Crown Prince. I am the Yufeng Kingdom's Grand Marshal. Greetings to Your Highness, the Crown Prince. I am. The people from the four kingdoms looked at each other and bowed respectfully to Wei Zilong. Because of Wei Zilong's actions, he was simply too noble. Furthermore, he was the person with the highest chance of becoming the emperor of the Fire Beacon dynasty. This caused them to have no choice but to be respectful to Wei Zilong. Not to mention them, even the emperors of their kingdoms had to be respectful when they saw Wei Zilong. Wei Zilong looked disdainfully at the people from the four kingdoms and asked, What are you all doing here? Your Highness, we are here to compensate the Tianyuan kingdom with resources. The envoy from the Yin Song Kingdom said respectfully to Wei Zilong. Oh, compensate them with resources? When Wei Zilong heard what the envoy from the Yin Song Kingdom said, a mocking look appeared on his face. Where are the resources? Your Highness, the resources are here. The envoy from the Yin Song Kingdom said as he held up the space ring in his hand. Are you all here to deliver resources? Wei Zilong turned his gaze to the people from the other kingdoms. When the people from the other kingdoms heard Wei Zilong's words, they didn't dare to hide anything and hurriedly nodded their heads. Very well, I shall kindly accept these resources, Wei Zilong said with a smile. What? Everyone was stunned when they heard Wei Zilong's words. What's going on? It seems like the Fire Beacon dynasty is here to cause trouble. Could it be that the Fire Beacon dynasty isn't the backer of the Tianyuan kingdom? The people from the four kingdoms couldn't help but whisper among themselves. At first, they had thought that the Fire Beacon dynasty was the backer of the Tianyuan kingdom. However, it seemed like the situation was different from what they had imagined. "Hurry up! Don't you understand His Majesty's words?" As soon as Wei Zilong finished speaking, a guard walked up to the envoys from the four kingdoms and stretched out his hand. The envoys from the four kingdoms hesitated when they saw the guard. They didn't know what to do. "What? Are you going to go against my words?" Wei Zilong said coldly when he saw the hesitation on the faces of the envoys from the four kingdoms. In Wei Zilong's eyes, the people from the four kingdoms were nothing. Even if the emperors of the four kingdoms were here, he wouldn't care, let alone the envoys from the four kingdoms. Of course, he wasn't interested in the resources of the four kingdoms. After all, he was the crown prince of a dynasty. Why would he care about the resources of some kingdoms? He wanted these resources because he wanted to humiliate the Tianyuan kingdom. He wanted to humiliate Yi Hao properly. After all, this was Yi Hao's court. If he seized the resources of the four kingdoms as compensation to the Tianyuan kingdom, it would undoubtedly be the greatest humiliation to the Tianyuan kingdom and Yi Hao. When the envoys from the four kingdoms heard Wei Zilong's cold voice, their eyes were filled with fear. They didn't dare to offend Wei Zilong. If Wei Zilong had asked them for resources on any other day, they would have given them to him. After all, if they could use some resources to curry favor with Wei Zilong and win his favor, they would be more than happy to do so. But now, they had to compensate Yi Hao for all the resources they had in their hands. It should be known that the armies of the various nations were still under Yi Hao's control. They had no choice but to obey Yi Hao. If they handed over the resources in their hands to Wei Zilong now, they would undoubtedly offend Yi Hao. When they thought about the emperor's instructions, the powerhouses of the Tianyuan kingdom, and their own armies, they didn't dare to offend Yi Hao. However, if they didn't hand over the resources to Wei Zilong, they would undoubtedly offend Wei Zilong and the Fire Beacon dynasty. They didn't dare to offend Wei Zilong, let alone the Fire Beacon kingdom behind him. Chapter 11:15. Wei Zilong was embarrassed that he dared to hesitate in front of the envoys from the four kingdoms. He had never been so humiliated in any kingdom before. Wei Zilong snorted in dissatisfaction. Boom! Following Wei Zilong's snort, a burly man in silver armor behind Wei Zilong suddenly released his aura. Suddenly, a majestic spiritual energy pressed down on the people from the four kingdoms. When the people from the four kingdoms felt the majestic spiritual energy released by the burly man in silver armor, their faces were filled with pain. So strong, the people from the four kingdoms all thought in their hearts. Wei Zilong's face was filled with pride. This time, he had brought 5 Atman body realm experts to the Tianyuan kingdom. His goal was to humiliate the Tianyuan kingdom and then destroy it. His original plan was to wait until the day of the challenge and lead the 5 Atman body realm experts to destroy the experts from the Tianyuan kingdom. However, he couldn't hold himself back, so he brought along an Atman body level Chi practitioner and a group of guards to give Yi Hao a taste of his own medicine. Therefore, at this moment, when he saw his men intimidating the people from the four kingdoms with their strength, he was very satisfied. If you know what's good for you, hand over the things. Otherwise, if you make His Highness unhappy, I'm afraid you'll have to bear the consequences. The guard looked at the people from the four kingdoms and continued to speak. Feeling the powerful spiritual energy on their bodies, the people from the four kingdoms looked at Yi Hao awkwardly. This was because they could not hold on any longer. If Yi Hao did not do anything, they would have to hand over the things to Wei Zilong. After all, a wise man submits to circumstances. They could tell that Wei Zilong was here to cause trouble for Yi Hao. They did not want to get involved in this mess. Moreover, in their hearts, they still believed that the Fire Beacon dynasty was much stronger than the Tianyuan kingdom. If they were asked to choose a side, they would not hesitate to stand on Wei Zilong's side. The reason why they were in such a difficult situation was because they were in the Tianyuan kingdom and had no choice. However, they were looking forward to Wei Zilong defeating Yi Hao and the Tianyuan kingdom. After all, they had been captured by Yi Hao and given so many resources as compensation to Yi Hao. Naturally, They were very dissatisfied with the Tianyuan kingdom. What a crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty! How arrogant! Seeing Wei Zilong act so arrogantly in front of him, the Fire Beacon dynasty's crown prince shouted. Yi Hao was infuriated by this. He was simply looking down on him. What? If you don't like this crown prince, then come and beat me if you have the ability. Wei Zilong sneered at Yi Hao's words. It was obvious that Wei Zilong did not place Yi Hao in his eyes at all. Otherwise, he would not have provoked Yi Hao in such a manner. Since you have such an invitation, I will satisfy you. After Yi Hao finished speaking, he also leaped and attacked Wei Zilong. How dare you? Seeing that Yi Hao dared to attack Wei Zilong, the silver-armored man was enraged and was about to attack Yi Hao. Stop! Let this crown prince teach this dog a lesson. Wei Zilong stopped the silver-armored man with a confident and arrogant face. What a joke! He was a first-order demon emperor. Seeing that Yi Hao was so young, he did not need to think to know that Yi Hao could not be his opponent. Wei Zilong's aura surged. His martial power was mixed with spiritual power. He clenched his fists and faced Yi Hao's attack. Seeing Wei Zilong's aura, Yi Hao sneered in his heart. A mere first-order demon emperor was indeed powerful, but he was not his opponent. Yi Hao did not hide his strength this time. He wanted to use his absolute strength to crush Wei Zilong. He wanted to let Wei Zilong know the price of being arrogant in front of him. Oh my God! Everyone says that the Fire Beacon dynasty's crown prince is extremely talented. I didn't expect him to be so strong. I also didn't expect His Highness Wei Zilong to be a first-order demon emperor. This is too powerful. It seems that the Fire Beacon dynasty's crown prince is going to win this time. According to His Highness Wei Zilong's current cultivation, he will definitely become a spirit cultivator in the future. With the Fire Beacon dynasty's strength and His Highness Wei Zilong's talent, becoming a spirit cultivator shouldn't be a big problem. Seeing Wei Zilong's aura, everyone immediately began to discuss. Wait a minute, am I seeing things? Emperor Tianyuan's cultivation is actually a fifth-order demon venerable. Oh my God, it seems like it's really a fifth-order demon venerable. How can a fifth-order demon venerable be His Highness Wei Zilong's opponent? Isn't he courting death? When everyone saw Yi Hao's cultivation level, they couldn't help but be stunned, and their faces couldn't help showing astonishment. They could not understand how Yi Hao dared to fight Wei Zilong with such a weak cultivation. Of course, if they knew Yi Hao's real age, they would not think that Yi Hao's fifth-order demon venerable cultivation was low. Something's not right. Why do I feel that the power in Emperor Tianyuan's hands is not the strength that a fifth-order demon venerable should have? I seem to have this feeling too. I'm not imagining things, am I? I can actually see the fluctuation of spiritual power. Bang! Under everyone's puzzled gaze, Yi Hao and Wei Zilong's fists finally collided. Die! Wei Zilong looked at Yi Hao. He actually dared to fight with him without knowing the difference between life and death. A trace of disdain flashed across his face. In his heart, there was a touch of victory. If he were to kill Yi Hao on their first encounter, his reputation would surely skyrocket if the news were to be spread. However, when his fist collided with Yi Hao's fist, his face suddenly changed. This was because he felt that the power in Yi Hao's hand was much stronger than his. How was this possible? Wei Zilong was very puzzled. Everyone was shocked by what happened. They thought that Yi Hao would be defeated easily. After all, a first-order demon emperor against a fifth-order demon venerable was a one-sided battle. However, they found that Yi Hao stood in the same place and did not move at all. Instead, Wei Zilong was directly sent flying. On the other hand, Yi Hao stood in the same place and did not move at all. Wei Zilong was directly sent flying out of the main hall. Your Highness, seeing Wei Zilong fly out, everyone from the Fire Beacon dynasty suddenly changed their faces. The silver-armored guard suddenly exclaimed and quickly grabbed Wei Zilong. Puff! Wei Zilong felt the blood in his body surging, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. With the help of the silver-armored guard, he stabilized his body. Chapter 11:16. Oh my God, am I seeing things? A fifth-order demon venerable actually defeated a first-order demon emperor. Oh my God, is this real or fake? This is too unbelievable. This Emperor Tianyuan is simply a monster. When a group of people saw that Yi Hao had defeated Wei Zilong, they were all shocked, and their jaws almost dropped. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. A fifth-order demon venerable was actually able to defeat a first-order demon emperor. This was something that was simply impossible, but it had happened. Everyone couldn't help but think that the difference in cultivation level was not just one level, but the difference between heaven and earth. Unless it was a person with exceptional talent who could pull down such a gap, or even fight above their level. But to be able to fight above their level, they were all monstrous geniuses. But no matter how monstrous a genius was, they had never heard of anyone who could fight above their level. Moreover, this was directly crushing the opponent above their level. Everyone looked at Yi Hao with shock in their eyes. Obviously, in their opinion, Yi Hao's talent was absolutely monstrous. Cough, cough, this prince is fine. Wei Zilong pushed the silver-armored burly man away and looked at Yi Hao with murderous intent. Dog, how can you be so powerful? You are not a fifth-order demon venerable. I am a fifth-order demon venerable. Yi Hao chuckled and looked at Wei Zilong. Absolutely impossible. How can a fifth-order demon venerable defeat me? Wei Zilong looked at Yi Hao in disbelief and asked, Because you are a piece of trash. Yi Hao looked at Wei Zilong with disdain. You are courting death. Wei Zilong was furious when he heard Yi Hao's words. He was the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? Not only was he defeated by a fifth-order demon venerable, but he was also ridiculed by Yi Hao as a piece of trash. If this spread out, he would definitely become a laughingstock in the eyes of countless people. Kill this dog for me. Wei Zilong knew that he was no match for Yi Hao, so he was very tactful and directly ordered the silver-armored man. How dare you injure our crown prince? Today, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. After receiving Wei Zilong's order, the silver-armored man shouted angrily and directly attacked Yi Hao. The Atman body-level Qi practitioners are about to make their move. When the people of the four great kingdoms saw that the silver-armored man was about to make a move, they immediately focused their attention on him. After all, there was no Atman body-level cultivator in their kingdom. Therefore, to them, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see an Atman body-level Qi practitioner in action. Looks like Emperor Tianyuan is finished this time. Of course. After offending the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty, how could he have a good ending? Although Emperor Tianyuan is powerful enough to deal with a first-order demon emperor in front of an Atman body realm expert, he is no different from an ant. Do you even need to think about it? Even a demon monarch would be crushed by an Atman body cultivator, let alone a mere demon lord. Seeing that the silver-armored man had made his move, the people of the four great kingdoms couldn't help but discuss. Dog, let's see if you will die this time. Seeing that the silver-armored man had made his move, Wei Zilong couldn't help but sneer as he looked at Yi Hao. How dare you act rashly in front of his majesty? You are courting death. Seeing that the silver-armored man had made his move, Yin Liang and Huang Zhong were instantly enraged. Both of them attacked at the same time, attacking the silver-armored man. Courting death. Seeing that Yin Liang and Huang Zhong actually dared to attack him, the silver-armored man sneered disdainfully. Obviously, he didn't put Yin Liang and Huang Zhong in his eyes. After all, in his opinion, the small Tianyuan kingdom was just a kingdom. How could anyone be his opponent? Bang! Bang! In the blink of an eye, Yin Liang and Huang Zhong's attacks landed on the silver-armored man's body. The silver-armored man had a look of indifference as he waved his hand at the two of them. In his opinion, as long as he released some of his spiritual power, he would be able to crush the two of them. However, he realized that the spiritual power he released had no effect on Yin Liang and Huang Zhong at all. Instead, the two's attacks landed directly on his body because he couldn't block them. Two collision sounds were heard, and the silver-armored man was directly sent flying. Although the silver-armored man retreated, Yin Liang and Huang Zhong had no intention of letting him go. The two of them looked at each other, leaped, and directly attacked the silver-armored man again. The silver-armored man's eyes were obviously a little flustered. He obviously didn't expect Yin Liang and Huang Zhong to be so powerful. This was simply beyond his expectations. He originally didn't take the two of them seriously, but now he had to pay attention to them. You are also spiritualists. The silver-armored man looked at Yin Liang and Huang Zhong with a solemn expression. You talk too much nonsense. Hearing the silver-armored man's words, Yin Liang shouted disdainfully, You're courting death. The silver-armored man was completely furious when he heard Yin Liang's words. Go to hell. The silver-armored man released his spiritual power. At this moment, the silver-armored man also directly took out his weapon. Obviously, the silver-armored man didn't dare to underestimate Yin Liang and Huang Zhong at this moment. The silver-armored man held a huge iron rod in his hand. The iron rod was nearly 5 meters long and half a meter thick. Countless people felt a strong sense of oppression when they looked at it. After the iron rod appeared, it rolled up a strong spiritual power and directly swept toward Yin Liang and Huang Zhong. Quick dodge. Oh my God, it's really too powerful. What a strong spiritual power. I feel the aura of death. Everyone looked at the silver-armored man, the huge iron rod in his hand, and the strong spiritual power. All of them were shocked and fearful. They all felt a sense of oppression. They had no doubt that if a trace of this attack fell on them, they would die without a doubt. Therefore, they didn't dare to have the slightest delay and quickly retreated one by one. Your Highness, retreat quickly. The guards brought by Wei Zilong saw the silver-armored man's attack, and their expressions changed. They quickly went forward, grabbed Wei Zilong, and began to retreat. As for Yi Hao, he stood in the same place and didn't move at all. Is he scared out of his wits? Look, Emperor Tan Yuan isn't running away. Isn't he courting death? Could it be that he doesn't know the strength of spiritual power? Even if this iron staff touches him a little, I reckon he will die here. Retreat quickly. Don't lose your life here just because you look at him. I think he's scared out of his wits. The ninjas fled one after another. When they saw Yi Hao standing in the same place without moving, they couldn't help but discuss. Chapter 11:17. Trash will always be trash. I think the remaining power of this strike will be enough to kill him. Wei Zilong and his subordinates retreated to a safe place. Wei Zilong turned around and found that Yi Hao was still standing in the same place. Wei Zilong couldn't help but sneer disdainfully. Your Highness, I think this bastard will die miserably this time. Is there a need to explain? Have you seen anyone who offended His Highness have a good ending? But in my opinion, it's too easy for this guy to die like this. The guard behind Wei Zilong couldn't help but say. They all looked at Yi Hao with ridicule in their eyes. In fact, Yi Hao didn't retreat not because Yi Hao was scared out of his wits. It was because he was full of confidence in Yin Liang and Huang Zhong. He believed that as long as Yin Liang and Huang Zhong were there, the silver-armored man wouldn't be able to hurt him. Child's play. Yin Liang sneered when he saw the silver-armored man take out his weapon. The saber in his hand instantly appeared in his hand. The saber in Yin Liang's hand directly slashed at the silver-armored man's iron staff. Bang! A violent collision sound was heard. The silver-armored man was directly sent flying again. Obviously, the silver-armored man was no match for Yin Liang. How is this possible? Everyone's expression changed when they saw this scene. Obviously, no one expected Yin Liang's strength to be stronger than the silver-armored man, although Yin Liang succeeded in repelling the silver-armored man. However, as the two of them fought, the remaining berserk energy immediately attacked Yi Hao. At the critical moment, Huang Zhong directly stood in front of Yi Hao and his aura surged. Immediately, the remaining force of the battle between Yin Liang and the silver-armored man was reduced to nothing. So strong. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but think at the same time. They all looked at Yin Liang and Huang Zhong with awe in their eyes. Obviously, they thought that the silver-armored man was the strongest in this hall. But now, it seemed that the silver-armored man was not as strong as Yin Liang and Huang Zhong. Kneel down. Seeing the silver-armored man retreat, Yin Liang slashed out a few more times. Bang, bang, bang. The crisp sound of metal clashing continuously rang out, and the iron staff in the silver-armored man's hand became increasingly unsteady. Bang! Suddenly, a huge collision sound rang out as the silver-armored man's iron staff smashed out. Smashing into the ground, a huge crater instantly appeared. One could imagine how powerful this force was. The silver-armored man felt that his hand, which was holding the iron staff, was extremely numb at this moment. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lost his grip on his weapon and sent it flying away. The silver-armored, burly man's face turned ugly. He hadn't expected himself to be so powerful. At this moment, in the kingdom that he looked down on, he actually ran into someone stronger than him. Just as his expression turned extremely ugly, Yin Liang pounced on him and kicked him in the knee. Because he couldn't react in time, his knee couldn't withstand such a powerful force. His knees immediately went soft, and he knelt on the ground. Plop! The silver-armored man's knees immediately caused a huge noise. Those who saw him knew that he was kneeling on the ground, but those who didn't see him thought that it was metal hitting the ground. The silver-armored man knelt on the ground. Because of the violent impact, a heart-wrenching pain entered his mind. I'm going to kill you. The burly man knelt on the ground and immediately felt that he had lost all face. He couldn't help but roar in anger. The burly man struggled to get up. Kneel! Yin Liang also roared angrily and slapped the burly man's shoulder. Bang! The burly man was about to stand up, but after being slapped by Yin Liang, he knelt on the ground once again. When everyone saw this scene, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. This person is actually so powerful. He can actually make someone from the Fire Beacon dynasty kneel. He really hid his strength well. I just said that Emperor Tianyuan isn't stupid enough to not dodge when his life is in danger. It turns out that he has nothing to fear. Look at His Highness Wei Zilong's expression. Everyone looked at Yin Liang in shock, then turned their attention to Wei Zilong. After all, the silver-armored man was Wei Zilong's subordinate. At this moment, Wei Zilong's expression became extremely gloomy. It was so gloomy that it seemed as though water was about to drip from it. The reason why he couldn't wait to lead his men to the Tianyuan Imperial Palace before the start of the challenge was to humiliate Yi Hao. But now, Yi Hao didn't succeed in humiliating him. Instead, his men were forced to kneel by Yi Hao's men. He couldn't help but wonder who was the one humiliating whom and who was the one slapping whose face. He was clearly the one who put his face in front of Yi Hao for Yi Hao to slap. Wei Zilong was furious as he looked at the kneeling, silver-armored man. He really regretted it now. If he had known this would happen, he would have brought all the powerhouses into the Imperial Palace. Now, the strongest person he had brought into the Imperial Palace was the silver-armored man. However, even the large, silver-armored man had been beaten to his knees. There was no need to mention how his bodyguards would fare. They could bully the weak normally, but when it came to crucial times, they wouldn't even be able to stand up against a powerhouse. This meant that even though he was about to explode with anger, he couldn't save the silver-armored man. Your Highness, this bastard dared to act rashly in front of you. I have already subdued him. Please give me instructions, Your Highness. Yin Liang said respectfully to Yi Hao after subduing the silver-armored man. When the silver-armored man heard Yin Liang's words, he couldn't help but glare angrily at Yin Liang and roar, "If you have the guts, then let me go. Let's fight another 300 rounds until we die." This was because Yin Liang had forced him to kneel on the ground and restrained him. He couldn't stand up at all. Otherwise, he would fight Yin Liang to the death, even if he had to risk his life. He was not willing to suffer such a great humiliation. What right do trash like you have to fight to the death with me? Don't even talk about fighting to the death. Your life is now in the hands of His Majesty. As long as His Majesty gives the order, I'll make sure you die." Yin Liang said disdainfully when he heard the silver-armored man's clamor. "You?" The silver-armored man was furious when he heard Yin Liang's words. However, he had nothing to say. Chapter 11:18. Oh my God, why is his gaze so terrifying? That gaze is simply too frightening. In that instant, I actually felt as if I was about to die. The people of the Four Kingdoms immediately panicked when Yi Hao's gaze swept past them. "This Highness is here to discuss the matters of the arena matches with you." Wei Zilong forcefully expelled the trace of fear in his heart and forced himself to speak calmly. "What arena battle? How come I've never heard of it?" "I've never heard of it either. The Tianyuan Kingdom and the Fire Beacon Kingdom have a battle." "Since when did the Tianyuan Kingdom and the Fire Beacon Dynasty have an arena battle?" "But isn't the Tianyuan Kingdom courting death by fighting the Fire Beacon Dynasty?" "That's right. Although the Tianyuan Kingdom has an Atman body realm expert, it's impossible for them to be a match for the Fire Beacon Dynasty." "I think the Tianyuan Kingdom must have gone mad." When the people of the Four Kingdoms heard Wei Zilong's words, they immediately started discussing. One must know that it was very normal for kingdoms to hold arena battles to promote communication between the two kingdoms. However, it was almost impossible for kingdoms and dynasties to hold an arena battle. This was because there was simply no comparison between kingdoms and dynasties. If a kingdom and a dynasty fought, it was simply asking for a beating. No kingdom would be foolish enough to do so. However, when they heard that the Tianyuan Kingdom wanted to fight the Fire Beacon Dynasty, they couldn't help but be shocked. They even suspected that Yi Hao was crazy to want to fight the Fire Beacon Dynasty. At the same time, they were also curious as to how the Tianyuan Kingdom had offended the Fire Beacon Dynasty for them to put down their dignity and fight the Tianyuan Kingdom. It must be known that some dynasties would not even bother to compete with kingdoms for the sake of their own reputation. The reason for that was because being labeled as someone who bullied the weak was simply a disgrace to one's reputation. However, the Fire Beacon Dynasty had actually put down their dignity and wanted to fight the Tianyuan Kingdom. It was obvious that the Tianyuan Kingdom had done something to offend the guards of the Fire Beacon Dynasty, which was why the Fire Beacon Dynasty was doing this. "How do you want to compete?" When Yi Hao heard Wei Zilong's words, he immediately asked, "Tomorrow, I will set up 5 arenas in the central square of the Tianyuan Kingdom, waiting for the Tianyuan Kingdom's challenge. The kingdom that wins the most battles will be the victor. If your Tianyuan Kingdom loses, my Fire Beacon Dynasty's army will annihilate your Tianyuan Kingdom, leaving no survivors. If you win, we will give the Tianyuan Kingdom a chance. As long as all the members of the royal family commit suicide, the Fire Beacon Dynasty will spare the citizens of the Tianyuan Kingdom." When Wei Zilong heard Yi Hao's question, he immediately explained the rules. How had the Tianyuan Kingdom offended the Fire Beacon Dynasty? It seems the Tianyuan Kingdom is the Tianyuan Kingdom. Haha, if you want to blame someone, blame it on the Tianyuan Kingdom for being so reckless and actually offending the Fire Beacon Dynasty. The people of the 4 great kingdoms couldn't help but discuss the matter. However, most of them were gloating over the Tianyuan Kingdom's misfortune. This was because the 4 great kingdoms had always suppressed the Tianyuan Kingdom in terms of strength. But now, the 4 great kingdoms couldn't do anything to the Tianyuan Kingdom. They had been squeezed dry by the Tianyuan Kingdom and had to compensate so many things. The Tianyuan Kingdom's strength was about to surpass the 4 great kingdoms. At this time, the Fire Beacon Dynasty actually wanted to destroy the Tianyuan Kingdom. How could they not gloat over the Tianyuan Kingdom's misfortune? As long as the Fire Beacon Dynasty destroyed the Tianyuan Kingdom, the status and strength of the 4 great kingdoms wouldn't change. This would also stabilize their position in the 4 great kingdoms. Otherwise, they couldn't imagine what the 4 great kingdoms would do if they just watched the Tianyuan Kingdom rise to power. Now that their worries were about to be resolved by the Fire Beacon Dynasty, they were naturally overjoyed. They believed that if they passed this news to their emperors would be overjoyed. But now, they were afraid of Yi Hao. Although they were overjoyed, they didn't dare to show it. Why don't we play a big game? Yi Hao said when he heard Wei Zilong's words. Play a big game? How? Wei Zilong was stunned when he heard Yi Hao's words. As for the others, their faces were filled with shock. They couldn't help but think, play a big game? Isn't this big enough? If the Tianyuan kingdom lost, the entire kingdom would be destroyed and everyone would be killed. Even if they won, the Tianyuan royal family wouldn't be able to escape death. He couldn't think of anything that was bigger than this. It's just to be fair. If you lose, why don't all of you stand in the arena and commit suicide? Yi Hao said to Wei Zilong. We lose. Ha ha, what a joke. Wei Zilong laughed when he heard Yi Hao's words. It was as if he had heard the funniest joke. Although Yin Liang and Huang Zhong had brought him quite a bit of shock, he thought that these were probably all the top experts of the Tianyuan kingdom. One had to know that when the time came, he would be setting up 5 arenas, and all of them would be Atman body-level cultivators. Even if Yin Liang and Huang Zhong won 1 battle each, the rest of his people would still be able to win 3 battles. As long as they won 3 battles, the Fire Beacon dynasty would win this battle. Therefore, he was filled with confidence towards this battle. He thought that he would definitely win this battle. It was impossible for him to lose. All right, as you wish. If you win, we will stand in the arena and commit suicide. Wei Zilong said directly without any fear or hesitation. Your Highness, please reconsider. Don't be rash. One of Wei Zilong's confidants quickly advised. Why? Do you think they will win? Wei Zilong asked casually when he heard his confidant's words. Wei Zilong's confidant couldn't help but think that they had 5 Atman body realm experts on their side. Therefore, he immediately shook his head. He didn't try to persuade Wei Zilong anymore. Obviously, he also thought that the Fire Beacon dynasty would win this battle. The people of the 4 great kingdoms were all aghast. Chapter 11:19. In that case, let's settle the score. Yi Hao said as he looked at Wei Zilong. Settle the score? What score? Wei Zilong was taken aback when he heard Yi Hao's words. He clearly didn't understand what Yi Hao meant. The score for trespassing on the Tianyuan Imperial Palace. Yi Hao shouted. Then, how do you want to settle the score? Wei Zilong asked Yi Hao. He had no choice but to lower his head. Men, throw these people out of the Tianyuan Imperial Palace. Yi Hao said, ignoring Wei Zilong. What did you say? How dare you? Wei Zilong flew into a rage when he heard Yi Hao's words. He was the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty. If he were to be thrown out of the imperial palace of a kingdom, he would lose all face. If word got out, the Fire Beacon dynasty's reputation would be tarnished. If he returned to the Fire Beacon dynasty, he would definitely be mocked by the other princes. Just imagining the consequences was not something he could accept. However, his words wouldn't scare Yi Hao. A group of Tianyuan Kingdom's guards rushed into the main hall. Let's see who dares to touch us. We are from the Fire Beacon dynasty. If you dare touch us, we will show no mercy. How dare a bunch of trash from a kingdom act so rashly in front of us? Wei Zilong's subordinates immediately drew their swords and threatened the Tianyuan Imperial Palace's guards. Although they weren't as strong as Huang Zhong and Yin Liang, it didn't mean that they were weaker than the Tianyuan Kingdom's guards. Therefore, they didn't take the Tianyuan Kingdom's guards seriously and threatened them directly. You dare to be arrogant in front of my emperor? All of you kneel. The people who saw Wei Zilong were actually so arrogant. Wei Zilong's subordinates were so arrogant that they didn't take the Tianyuan Kingdom's guards seriously at all. Huang Zhong shouted. Following Huang Zhong's roar, Huang Zhong directed his spiritual energy towards Wei Zilong's subordinates. However, this time, the suppression of spiritual energy was much stronger than the previous one. Plop, plop, plop. This time, Wei Zilong's subordinates did not even have the strength to resist. In the blink of an eye, they all knelt on the ground. How dare you be so arrogant in my territory? Beat them to death. Yi Hao ordered. Yes. Upon receiving Yi Hao's order, the guards of the Tianyuan Kingdom could not wait any longer. One by one, they put away their weapons and started to kick and punch Wei Zilong's men. Ah, my balls. It's shattered. Can you not kick my face? My teeth. Oh, oh, my chin. In an instant, the entire hall was filled with the wailing and howling of Wei Zilong's subordinates. Wei Zilong's subordinates were not any weaker than the guards of Tianyuan Imperial Palace. After all, no matter what, Wei Zilong was the grand crown prince of the dynasty. How could his subordinates be weak? If a fight really broke out, would the guards of Tianyuan Imperial Palace be able to defeat Wei Zilong's subordinates? It was hard to say. However, under the pressure of Huang Zhong's spiritual energy, Wei Zilong's subordinates were unable to move at all. Therefore, they could not resist at all. They could only endure the kicks and punches of the guards of the Tianyuan Imperial Palace. The entire scene looked like a gang fight. Phew, this feels so good. It's been a long time since I've taught someone a lesson. Phew, I can't fight anymore. After punching and kicking for a long time, the guards of the Imperial Palace could not help but gasp for breath. They were obviously beating up Wei Zilong's subordinates. They had really given it their all. SSS, this is too cruel. His Majesty of Tianyuan is too cruel. Oh my God, even the people of the Fire Beacon dynasty can be beaten up like this. Look at them. They are so pitiful. Seeing Wei Zilong's subordinates beaten up so badly that they did not even look human anymore, the people of the four great kingdoms could not help but gulp as they discussed. Although they were not the ones being beaten up, they knew that being unable to fight back and being beaten up was definitely not a good feeling. One must know that there was no lack of demon sovereigns and demon emperors among the people being beaten up. In the outside world, there were definitely high and mighty existences that were revered by tens of thousands of people. However, they were being beaten up right now. This was an absolute humiliation. At this moment, Wei Zilong's face was completely gloomy. His eyes were filled with anger. If anger could kill, Yihao would have died many times over by now. Right at this moment, Yihao suddenly spoke out. Wait a moment, how can there still be one person left? Everyone was stunned when they heard Yihao's words. The guards of the Tianyuan Imperial Palace immediately stopped and looked at Wei Zilong. It can't be. He can't be letting these people leave like this, right? Oh my God, this Emperor Tianyuan is indeed fearless. If Wei Zilong is beaten up, the entire Fire Beacon dynasty will probably fly into a rage out of humiliation. The people of the four great kingdoms were all shocked when they heard Yihao's words. What are you trying to do? You bunch of ants. If you dare hit me, I will definitely make you suffer a fate worse than death. Wei Zilong saw that all the guards' gazes were on him. He couldn't help but panic a little as he tried to avoid looking at them. Wei Zilong hurriedly threatened the guards in an attempt to scare them off. When he thought about how he would end up like his guards and be beaten up so miserably, his heart couldn't help but tremble a little. He was the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty. No one had ever dared to lay a finger on him, let alone beat him up so miserably. If he was really beaten to such a state, then he, the crown prince, would probably become the greatest laughingstock of the Fire Beacon dynasty. That would also give some of Shao Qin's rival princes an opportunity to deal with him. Beat him up. When they heard that Wei Zilong still dared to threaten them, they were furious. The guards of the Tianyuan Imperial Palace were instantly enraged. They couldn't help but shout as they all pounced on Wei Zilong. After all, they had Yihao behind them. They had nothing to fear. How dare you? Wei Zilong shouted angrily as he turned around to escape. Do you think you can run away? When he saw that Wei Zilong was about to escape, Huang Zhong couldn't help but sneer. The spiritual energy in his body pressed down on Wei Zilong's body. Plop. Chapter 1120. Seeing that Wei Zilong was pushed to the ground, a group of guards immediately rushed up and started to kick and punch Wei Zilong. Although Wei Zilong was the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty, the people of the four kingdoms feared him, but they were not afraid of Wei Zilong. They only obeyed Yihao's orders. I'm going to kill all of you. You bastards dare to hit me. I want you all dead. Wei Zilong could feel the punches and kicks falling on him like raindrops. Wei Zilong screamed in pain as he was beaten. He really dared to order his men to hit His Highness Wei Zilong. Oh my God, I can't believe my eyes. The Tianyuan kingdom is digging their own grave. Now that the Tianyuan kingdom has beaten the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty, the Fire Beacon dynasty will definitely fight to the death with the Tianyuan kingdom. The Tianyuan kingdom has made an unwise choice by offending the Fire Beacon dynasty. Moreover, they have offended the Fire Beacon dynasty so thoroughly. The people of the Four Kingdoms had not expected that Yi Hao would really dare to order his men to beat Wei Zilong. But if they knew that the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty had already been killed by Yi Hao, they would be even more shocked. They looked at Wei Zilong, who was beaten to a sorry state on the ground. It was hard to imagine that this was the arrogant and lofty crown prince of the Fire Beacon Empire. That's enough. Throw everyone out. Yi Hao waved his hand when he saw that most of the people had been beaten up. Hearing Yi Hao's order, a group of guards immediately lifted the people on the ground and walked out of the hall. Wei Zilong, who was in the hands of someone, was glaring at Yi Hao viciously. He did not say anything because he knew that it would not be wise for him to say anything at this moment. If he provoked Yi Hao again, and Yi Hao ordered his men to beat him up again, he would be at a great disadvantage. I must destroy the Tianyuan kingdom. Wei Zilong gritted his teeth as he thought to himself. At this moment, his entire body was in pain, and the pain was constantly transmitted to his mind. This was definitely the greatest humiliation he had ever suffered in his entire life. Thus, at that moment, his heart was filled with hatred toward Yi Hao, because all the humiliation she was suffering now was all thanks to Yi Hao. He had already made up his mind. When the time came, he would capture Yi Hao. He would definitely not kill Yi Hao, because in his opinion, if he killed Yi Hao, it would be letting Yi Hao off too easily. He wanted to capture Yi Hao and torture him. He wanted to torture Yi Hao for the rest of his life and make Yi Hao wish he was dead. Hey, who are these people? How could he be thrown out of the palace? Judging from their attire, they don't seem to be from the Tianyuan kingdom. I seem to recognize them. They seem to be the group of people who arrogantly barged into the palace. I recognized them too. I was wondering why this group of people looked so familiar. Weren't they very arrogant just now? Now that they're beaten up, why can't I see their arrogance? Wei Zilong and the others were thrown out of the palace, which immediately attracted a large crowd. A group of people looked at Wei Zilong and the others and could not help but discuss. When Wei Zilong heard the discussion around him, he immediately lowered his head in shame. If these people knew his identity, it would be so embarrassing. Your Highness, are you all right? A group of guards endured the pain. They quickly came over and helped Wei Zilong up. Your Highness? Is he a prince? It seems like they are really not from the Tianyuan kingdom. Looking at the situation, I guess this group of people came to cause trouble for our emperor. In the end, they were taught a lesson by our emperor and thrown out of the palace. I wonder which country they are from. When they heard the guards call Wei Zilong Your Highness, everyone started discussing again. They were all more curious about Wei Zilong's identity. Trash, let's go. Wei Zilong really did not want to stay here for a second longer. He really did not want anyone to know his identity, because this was simply too embarrassing. Prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty, take care. Seeing that Wei Zilong was about to leave with his men, Huangzhong suddenly appeared at the entrance of the palace and said directly, Yi Hao had specially instructed him to come here and say this. Wei Zilong was originally afraid that others would know his identity and wanted to leave quickly. However, Yi Hao did not let him go and even sent Huangzhong to expose his identity. At this moment, when he heard Huangzhong's words, he almost stumbled and fell to the ground. What? Did I hear wrongly? They are from the Fire Beacon dynasty. Oh my God, what did I discover? People from the dynasty actually came to the Tianyuan kingdom and were beaten up by our emperor. I was wondering why they dared to barge into the palace. It turns out that they are backed by the dynasty. Wait a minute, his identity is actually the crown prince. His majesty is really amazing. He actually dared to beat up the Fire Beacon dynasty's crown prince and did not even give face to the dynasty. At this moment, when some of the onlookers found out that Wei Zilong was actually the Fire Beacon dynasty's crown prince, they were all shocked. In the past, the Tianyuan kingdom did not dare to beat up the crown prince of the dynasty. They did not even dare to offend the people from the other kingdoms and were all respectful and reverent. Therefore, when the people from the other kingdoms came to the Tianyuan kingdom, the people of the Tianyuan kingdom treated them with respect and reverence. However, the people of the other kingdoms did not take them seriously and looked at them with the attitude of looking at inferior people. Therefore, as the people of the Tianyuan kingdom, they were very sullen. However, now they saw that their emperor, Yihao, was not even afraid of the people from the dynasty and even dared to beat up the crown prince of the dynasty. This caused their hearts to be filled with pride and pride. This was because the people of the kingdom felt sincerely proud when they saw their kingdom become stronger. At this moment, many people were filled with pride and admiration for their emperor, Yihao. Humph! Hearing the discussion behind him, Wei Zilong did not even turn his head. He snorted and left with a group of people. Ha ha! Seeing Wei Zilong leave in such a sorry state, a loud roar of laughter suddenly broke out. Hearing the laughter behind him, Wei Zilong was even more furious. Laugh all you want. Sooner or later, I will make sure that none of you can laugh. Wei Zilong thought angrily. Huang Zhong looked at Wei Zilong's back as he left in a sorry state. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention, he quietly followed him. Your Majesty. The people from the four kingdoms saw Wei Zilong and the others being taken out. After a long time, they recovered from shock. Chapter 11:21. What do you all think about this? Yihao looked at the people from the four great kingdoms and asked with a smile. Yihao could also see how much the people from the four great kingdoms had wanted Wei Zilong to kill him just now. Although the people from the four great kingdoms didn't say it out loud, that didn't mean that he couldn't see it. Since the people from the four great kingdoms thought this way, he naturally couldn't let them off easily. Although he hadn't killed these people yet, it was still good to torture them a little. At the very least, he could increase their psychological burden and make them not dare to underestimate the Tianyuan kingdom. The people from the four great kingdoms felt their hearts sink when they heard Yihao's question. After all, this question was too difficult to answer. If they said that Yihao did the right thing, they would be offending Wei Zilong and the Fire Beacon dynasty. It would be like lending them 100 guts. They wouldn't dare offend Wei Zilong and the Fire Beacon dynasty. However, if they said that Yihao did the wrong thing, they would be offending Yihao. Yihao even dared to hit Wei Zilong, the crown prince of the Fire Beacon dynasty. They couldn't think of anything that Yihao wouldn't dare to do. At this moment, the miserable state of Wei Zilong and his subordinates still lingered in their minds, making them feel a lingering fear. What? You don't dare to say it? Yihao continued to ask softly when he saw that the people from the four great kingdoms were hesitant to speak. When they heard Yihao's words, the people from the four great kingdoms lowered their heads, not daring to answer Yihao. Impudent! Yihao suddenly roared. Royal aura surrounded his body and crushed the people from the four great kingdoms. Plop! 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 The people from the four great kingdoms were shocked by Yihao's roar. Then, they were crushed by the royal aura. They couldn't hold on any longer and knelt on the ground. What a strong royal aura. His royal aura is so strong. This sovereign aura is even stronger than my emperor's. Oh my God, Tianyuan kingdom has unknowingly become so powerful. The four of them were forced to kneel on the ground by the sovereign aura. However, their hearts were filled with shock. That was because, without exception, they all sensed that the royal aura on Yihao's body was much stronger than the royal aura on the four great kingdoms' emperors. One had to know that this royal aura was a symbol of a country's strength. The stronger the imperial qi, the stronger the country. The stronger a country was, the stronger its fate would be. In the end, fate would gather in the country's imperial jade seal and be used by the emperor to form imperial qi. Now that Yihao was so strong, it proved that the Tianyuan kingdom had become stronger. It was even stronger than the four great kingdoms. Your Majesty, please calm down. The people from the four great kingdoms hurriedly said to Yi Hao after recovering from their shock. Their tone was full of respect for Yi Hao. They couldn't help but respect Yi Hao under the pressure of his majestic aura. According to common sense, imperial qi was stronger than martial power and spiritual power. However, at the same time, imperial qi wasn't something that anyone could control. If one wanted to control imperial qi, they had to be the emperor, the true dragon, or the son of heaven. I just want to know which side you will stand on when I declare war on the fiery beacon dynasty. Yi Hao asked as he looked down at the crowd. What? Declare war on the fiery beacon dynasty? Everyone was stunned when they heard Yi Hao's words. They all looked at Yi Hao as though he was a lunatic. They realized that Yi Hao was serious and didn't seem like he was joking at all. They really couldn't understand where a kingdom had gotten the courage to declare war on the fiery beacon dynasty. Your Majesty, do you know how powerful the fiery beacon dynasty is? Your Majesty, the fiery beacon dynasty is so powerful that even the four great kingdoms combined wouldn't be able to contend against it. The fiery beacon dynasty is called a fiery beacon dynasty because its strength far exceeds that of a kingdom. The people of the four great kingdoms spoke one after another. Of course, they weren't reminding Yi Hao out of goodwill. They couldn't wait for the Tianyuan kingdom to be destroyed. How could they be so kind as to remind Yi Hao out of goodwill? They were just testing Yi Hao. They wanted to see if Yi Hao really had the strength to declare war on the fiery beacon dynasty, or if he was just bragging. He was overestimating himself. At first, they had all thought that Yi Hao and Wei Zilong would be courting death if they went against the fiery beacon dynasty. However, when they saw Yi Hao's confident face, they somehow felt like believing that Yi Hao could deal with the fiery beacon dynasty. This feeling made them feel like they were going crazy. However, if Yi Hao didn't have absolute strength and confidence, how could he possibly send people to beat up Wei Zilong without any fear? Therefore, Yi Hao and the entire Tianyuan kingdom were like a dense fog in their eyes. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't see through it clearly. Therefore, they wanted to test Yi Hao. I naturally know that they are a fiery beacon dynasty. However, in my eyes, so what if they are a fiery beacon dynasty? Yi Hao chuckled when he heard what the people of the four great kingdoms said. Arrogant. Incomparably arrogant. The people of the four great kingdoms were stunned when they heard Yi Hao's words. In their opinion, Yi Hao's words were extremely arrogant. He was completely looking down on the fiery beacon dynasty. Could it be that the current Tianyuan kingdom really has the strength to challenge the fiery beacon dynasty? The people of the four great kingdoms exchanged glances as they all thought the same thing. How is it? Has everyone decided on where to stand? You must know that it is very important to choose a side. Otherwise, you might invite disaster upon yourself. Yi Hao said to the crowd. It would have been better if Yi Hao hadn't said this. Now that he had said this, the people of the four great kingdoms felt even more pressured. After all, they weren't stupid. They naturally knew that choosing a side was very important. If they stood on the right side, it would be helpful to their faction in the future. However, if they stood on the wrong side, it might really bring disaster upon their faction. However, which side to stand on was undoubtedly a difficult choice for them. In the past, they would have stood on the fiery beacon dynasty's side without a doubt. After all, even a fool would know that a fiery beacon dynasty was much stronger than a kingdom. Thus, they would definitely stand on the stronger side. However, when they saw how confident Yi Hao was, they actually couldn't make up their minds right away. Chapter 11:22. Upon hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone was even more at a loss for what to do. They couldn't help but wonder if the Tianyuan kingdom already had the power to deal with the fiery beacon dynasty and the four great kingdoms. Otherwise, why wouldn't Yi Hao try his best to rope them in? Why would he push them away instead? Could Yi Hao be trying to take advantage of this opportunity to wipe out the fiery beacon dynasty and the four great kingdoms? However, this was something that even an ordinary dynasty couldn't do. Could Yi Hao's kingdom do it? All right, where's your compensation? Yi Hao glanced at everyone and returned to the main topic. Actually, The reason he had said so much previously wasn't because he wanted to pull the four great kingdoms to his side. His goal was to make sure that the four great kingdoms wouldn't stand on the fiery Beacon Dynasty side when he went to war with them. Otherwise, if he really had to go against the four great kingdoms and the fiery Beacon Dynasty, the pressure on him would be immense. Phew! For some reason, the people of the four great kingdoms heaved a sigh of relief when they heard Yi Hao ask them to compensate for their resources. They had really been worried that Yi Hao would force them to declare which side they would stand on. Fortunately, Yi Hao hadn't forced them to do so. "Your Majesty, these are the resources we have to compensate you with. Please check them." The people of the four great kingdoms took out all the resources they had stored away. One of Yi Hao's eunuchs hurried over to the people of the four great kingdoms and took all the rings. "Your Majesty," the eunuchs took all the space rings and handed them over to Yi Hao respectfully. Yi Hao put them away immediately. He didn't check all the space rings, as he believed that the four great kingdoms wouldn't lie to him. After all, the emperors of the four great kingdoms wouldn't take their lives lightly. "Since the compensation has been paid, you may all leave with your people. I still have matters to attend to, so I won't be seeing you off." Yi Hao turned around and left without waiting for the people of the four great kingdoms to speak. "Farewell, Your Majesty," the people of the four great kingdoms said in unison. Only when the people from the four great kingdoms were left in the hall did everyone let out a sigh of relief. "Your Highness, what should we do now?" At this moment, the people of the Yinsong Kingdom all looked at the South Protecting King and asked. It was obvious that the Jinnan King had the highest status among the people from the Yinsong Kingdom present. When the South Protecting King saw that everyone from the Yinsong Kingdom was looking at him, he fell into deep thought. "We'll make a decision after their battle in the arena is over," Jinnan Wang said after thinking for a moment. "Your Highness is right. The people sent by the Fire Beacon Dynasty won't be weak. This is a good opportunity for us to see the strength of the Tianyuan Kingdom. Yes, if Tianyuan loses, then we don't have to be afraid of Tianyuan Kingdom. If Tianyuan Kingdom wins, then we have to reconsider. However, I reckon that the Tianyuan Kingdom shouldn't be a match for the Fire Beacon Dynasty. After all, the Fire Beacon Dynasty's foundation is there." Wei Zilong also came prepared. He must have made ample preparations. However, the Tianyuan Kingdom actually has 2 Atman Body Realm experts. This is beyond our expectations. I didn't expect the Tianyuan Kingdom to be so strong. I really don't know where that Emperor Tianyuan came from. He actually has so many experts under him. 2 Atman Body Realm cultivators. I guess that's already the limit of the Tianyuan Kingdom. It's indeed impressive for a kingdom to have Atman Body Realm cultivators. But compared to an empire, 2 Atman Body Realm cultivators are nothing. In an instant, everyone started discussing. It wasn't just the Yinsong Kingdom. The other kingdoms also joined in the discussion. However, it was obvious that most of them didn't have high hopes for the Tianyuan Kingdom. After all, the strength of the Fire Beacon Dynasty was deeply ingrained in their hearts. Although Yi Hao had shocked them, they didn't think that the Tianyuan Kingdom could really defeat the Fire Beacon Dynasty. "There's no need to talk too much. When the time comes for the battle, we'll know," the South Protecting King said. Hearing the South Protecting King's words, everyone nodded their heads. Obviously, they agreed with the South Protecting King's words. Whether the Tianyuan Kingdom could really compete with the Fire Beacon Dynasty, the battle would undoubtedly be the best proof. If the Tianyuan Kingdom lost the battle, the Fire Beacon Dynasty would definitely win. It would also prove that the Tianyuan Kingdom wasn't as strong as the Fire Beacon Dynasty. After the group of people finished their discussion, they all left the main hall. "Your Highness, what happened to you? Didn't you go to the Tianyuan Palace? How did you get injured like this? Who has the guts to hit Your Highness? How did you guys protect His Highness?" Wei Zilong's body was covered in wounds. He returned to his room in anger. A group of people quickly came out to welcome him. When they saw the wounds on Wei Zilong's body, they were all shocked. Then, they quickly asked him worriedly. After all, Wei Zilong's status was extraordinary. If Wei Zilong was injured, it would mean that they didn't protect him well. If they returned to the Fire Beacon Dynasty and the Emperor punished them for this matter, they wouldn't feel good. Feng Wu, you are a level 8 Atman Body Realm warrior. Who beat you up like this? Immediately after, everyone looked at the silver-armored large man. They originally wanted to blame the silver-armored large man for not protecting Wei Zilong. However, they realized that the silver-armored man's condition wasn't any better than Wei Zilong's. The silver-armored man's face now looked like a swollen pig's head. If it wasn't for the silver-armored man's armor, no one would have recognized him. Therefore, everyone was slightly taken aback, because they knew the silver-armored man's strength very well. He was a level 8 Atman Body Realm warrior. He was considered one of the best among the warriors of the same level. They didn't expect that there would be someone in the small Tianyuan kingdom who could beat Feng Wu up like this. They couldn't help but be shocked. That bastard! I will make him suffer. Wei Zilong shouted angrily and was about to sit on the chair. Then Wei Zilong sucked in a breath of cold air. Because of the pain all over his body, even sitting down was a torture. Your Highness, what happened? Seeing Wei Zilong's angry look, everyone quickly asked again. Why aren't you letting that damned emperor of a small kingdom? That bastard, how dare he beat me up? Wei Zilong said angrily. After all, this was a great humiliation to him. He had never been humiliated like this in his life. Chapter 1123. HTTP status 500-160 / retype exception report / remessage 160 / redescription the server encounter an internal error Thatra Venedite from fulfilling his request / reception 8 YYN 2 / Renault the full stack Apache. Chapter 1124. She had thought that the long sword would be an Atman Body Realm weapon. However, she did not expect the long sword to be so powerful. It was a spiritual martial realm weapon. You are a sword user. Go down and practice with the sword. Yi Hao said to Sun Shangxiang. He believed in Sun Shangxiang. Although she did not take the spiritual martial realm level up elixir to raise her cultivation to the spiritual martial realm. But with this long sword, she could definitely be compared to a spiritual martial realm warrior. Thank you, Your Majesty. Sun Shangxiang bowed to Xia Haoshuan again. Then, she took the long sword and was about to leave. Boom! At this moment, Yan Liang's aura suddenly surged. The surrounding spiritual energy crazily rushed into his body. Boom! Boom! At the same time, Guan Yu and Huang Zhong's aura also surged. They started to crazily absorb the spiritual energy around them. For a moment, they looked like they were fighting for the spiritual energy. It requires so much spiritual energy. Sun Shangxiang was shocked when she saw the three of them crazily absorbing the spiritual energy. This was definitely more than the amount of spiritual energy she needed to reach the 10th level from the 9th level of the Atman Body Realm. Your Majesty, Sun Shangxiang could not help but look at Yi Hao anxiously. According to the way the three of them were fighting for and absorbing the spiritual energy, they would definitely not have enough spiritual energy. Although the spiritual martial realm level up elixir might not affect their breakthrough, it would definitely affect their foundation and achievements in the future. After all, the more spiritual energy they absorbed, the better it would be for them. No hurry. Seeing Sun Shangxiang's reaction, Yi Hao could not help but smile. He had already prepared for the spiritual energy. Yi Hao took out a space ring, and several piles of spirit coins were piled up in the hall, like a small mountain. So many spirit coins. Sun Shangxiang swallowed her saliva when she saw Yi Hao take out so many spirit coins. This was because if he took out so many spirit coins, countless people would be jealous. At this moment, a suction force appeared on the bodies of the three people. It was madly rushing towards the spirit coins. Spiritual chi gushed out crazily from the piles of spirit coins and was absorbed by the three of them. All of a sudden, countless spirit coins, which were piled up like small mountains, turned into dust in an instant. This was because the spiritual energy had been sucked away. The three of them absorbed the spiritual chi for a full quarter of an hour, and the amount of spiritual coins they absorbed was in the hundreds of thousands. An ordinary spiritualist would not be able to take out so many spirit coins. Even a spiritualist who had so many spirit coins would feel heartache if he spent so many spirit coins. Fortunately, the spirit coins that Yi Hao obtained were all from the four great kingdoms. Although there was a lot of spirit coins, he didn't feel the pinch at all. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for allowing us to break through so smoothly. Your Majesty, the first level of the spirit martial realm is much stronger than the 10th level of the Atman body realm. Such a strong power, it's awesome. Thank you, Your Majesty." After Yin Liang, Guan Yu, and Huang Zhong broke through, they quickly said excitedly, "Congratulations to the three of you." Seeing that the three of them had broken through, Sun Shangxiang also congratulated the three of them. When the three of them heard Sun Shangxiang's congratulatory words, they didn't know what to say for a moment. This was because the three of them had all broken through with the spirit martial realm level up elixir. On the other hand, Sun Shangxiang had not broken through with the spirit martial realm level up elixir. Therefore, when they looked at Sun Shangxiang, they felt very embarrassed. "Everyone, please take a look." Seeing the expressions of the three of them, Sun Shangxiang knew what they were thinking. Therefore, Sun Shangxiang smiled and took out his long sword. "This sword is so powerful. Such a powerful sword. Could it be a weapon of the spirit martial realm? Martial Sun, where did you get such a powerful sword?" When the three of them saw the long sword in Sun Shangxiang's hand, they all revealed looks of envy. "This sword was bestowed by Your Majesty." Sun Shangxiang looked at the three of them and revealed a look of envy. He was also very satisfied in his heart. At the beginning, when she saw the three of them obtain the spirit martial realm level up elixir and consume it, she was also very envious. "Congratulations, Martial Sun, for obtaining such a powerful long sword." "Congratulations, Martial Sun. Martial Sun has always been a swordsman. Now that you have obtained such a powerful long sword, your strength will definitely increase greatly. I reckon that you won't be any weaker than us." When the three of them saw Sun Shangxiang obtain the long sword, although they were envious, they also sincerely congratulated him. At the same time, they heaved a sigh of relief. After all, if they were the only ones who had benefited and Sun Shangxiang did not, it would make them feel a little uncomfortable. At the very least, it looked like everyone had benefited. "Your Majesty, the Fire Beacon Dynasty has sent 5 people to fight, but we only have 4 people here. What should we do if we have one less person?" Yin Liang looked at Yi Hao and asked, "Do you have any suggestions?" When Yi Hao heard Yi Hao's words, he also directly asked. One must know that Yin Liang's problem was the problem that he was currently facing, because he really did not have anyone that he could use. If either Zhao Yun or Ranmin were to come back, he obviously did not need to think so much. After all, the two of them were existences of level 10 Atman body realm. Using them to deal with Wei Zilong's people would probably be a piece of cake. However, Zhao Yun and Ranmin were at the most crucial moment of conquering the Flowing Cloud Kingdom. If Zhao Yun or Ranmin were to come back at this time, it would definitely affect the overall situation. Therefore, Zhao Yun and Ranmin absolutely could not be moved. Moreover, even if they were to move now, it would be too late for them to come back. "Your Majesty, with the 4 of us here, winning 4 rounds won't be a problem. As long as we win 4 rounds, we will be victorious. I think we can just send any one of us." "That's right, Your Majesty. Even if the person we send concedes, we can still win 4 rounds and obtain victory. Your Majesty, I also suggest that we send any one of us to participate in the competition." "Indeed, we can do that." When the 4 of them heard Yi Hao's question, they all spoke up. Each of them was obviously full of confidence in their own strength. Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to ask Yi Hao to send any one of them to participate in the competition. Asking Yi Hao to send any one of them was equivalent to asking Yi Hao to forfeit a victory. If 2 of them were to lose, the Fire Beacon Dynasty would win the competition. However, They had never thought that they would lose. In their opinion, the four of them would definitely win 4 rounds. Haha, you're indeed my people. How arrogant. When Yi Hao heard the four of them, he immediately laughed. Chapter 1125. Just pick anyone to participate. Yi Hao couldn't find anyone, so he decided, "Yes, your majesty." The four of them were delighted when they heard Yi Hao's decision. Yi Hao's decision proved that Yi Hao believed in their abilities. The next morning, the square in the center of Tianyuan Royal City was already packed with people. Everyone knew about the battle between Tianyuan Kingdom and Fire Beacon Kingdom, as well as the content of the battle. This battle concerned the life and death of Tianyuan Kingdom. Naturally, everyone was concerned. There was a huge battle stage in the center of the square. Around the arena, there were also some simple spectator seats placed around the arena. Those spectator seats were naturally meant for those with status. Although the spectator seats and the battle stage looked simple, it was already impressive that they could be made into such a state in just one night. His Majesty has arrived. At this moment, a dragon carriage arrived. Thousands of royal guards surrounded the dragon carriage. Yi Hao was wearing a purplish-gold dragon robe and a purplish-gold crown. He sat in the dragon carriage. Although he didn't move at all, he gave off an oppressive aura. Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! In an instant, the surrounding spectators knelt down and bowed. Their cheers were as loud as a tsunami. One had to know that Yi Hao had killed Hong Wudao in the imperial city and saved countless people. Yi Hao had a very high image in the hearts of the citizens. Yi Hao walked down from the dragon carriage and walked to the highest point of the spectator seats. There was already a golden dragon thrown there. Yi Hao scanned the crowd. He waved his right hand and said, "You may rise." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Hearing Yi Hao's words, everyone bowed respectfully. "Everyone, please take your seats." Yi Hao looked at the ministers and people from other factions and said. Hearing Yi Hao's order, some of the people with status found a good place to sit. Where are the people from the Fire Beacon dynasty? After everyone was seated, Yi Hao noticed that Wei Zilong did not bring anyone with him, so he could not help but ask, "Your Majesty, they haven't appeared yet. Should we send someone to take a look?" A eunuch looked at Yi Hao and asked respectfully. "No need." Yi Hao waved his hand. He knew that Wei Zilong was doing this on purpose to make him wait for him. Yi Hao guessed that Wei Zilong might be hiding in the crowd right now. "What's going on? Why don't I see anyone from the Fire Beacon dynasty?" How arrogant. They actually made His Majesty wait for them. I think they did it on purpose. The people of the Fire Beacon dynasty are really thinking about how to humiliate my emperor. Isn't this the competition they proposed? Now they're actually causing trouble again. Sai, how long do I have to wait? The crowd waited for a while and realized that Wei Zilong and the others still had not appeared. They all grumbled unhappily. It seems that the Fire Beacon dynasty is only SOSO, especially that bullshit crown prince. He probably didn't dare to come after being taught a lesson by me. He must have run away in the middle of the night because he felt embarrassed, Yi Hao suddenly said. Yi Hao's voice was mixed with martial Dao strength and power. It was not weak at all. It instantly resounded through the entire square and entered everyone's ears. Shameless boasting. Don't try to humiliate me. Just as Yi Hao finished speaking, a voice suddenly exploded from the crowd. Wei Zilong, who was originally wearing ordinary clothes, suddenly took them off in anger, revealing the gorgeous clothes underneath. Wei Zilong had indeed made up his mind to not come out for a while and wait for Yi Hao to dry out. However, he had not expected Yi Hao to say such words. He was instantly infuriated. He could not bear it and could only stand out. Hey, who is he? Could he be the Fire Beacon dynasty's crown prince? But why is he wearing those clothes and hiding in the crowd? I don't know what he's thinking about. When everyone heard Wei Zilong shout, they all looked at Wei Zilong at the same time. However, most of their eyes were filled with confusion and curiosity. They wanted to see what the crown prince of the empire, whose name was like thunder, looked like. He seems to be even older than His Majesty. Hey, There are many bruises on his face. Yesterday, I heard that the Fire Beacon Dynasty's crown prince was taught a lesson by His Majesty. It seems to be true now. Oh my God, is this true? His Majesty taught the crown prince a lesson. His Majesty is too powerful. I didn't expect His Majesty to teach the crown prince a lesson. The crowd could not help but discuss when they saw the injuries on Wei Zilong's face. Although Wei Zilong had consumed many elixirs and the injuries on his body had basically healed. However, there were still some marks and bruises on his face that had not completely disappeared. Wei Zilong heard the discussions around him. That made him even angrier. His original plan was to make everyone, especially Yi Hao, wait impatiently so that he would appear at the crucial moment. That way, he would definitely become the center of attention. At that time, he would send out the 5 experts that he had brought with him to crush Yi Hao's men. At that time, he would definitely become famous once again. All of this was originally a perfect plan. However, who would have thought that Yi Hao would ruin it all of a sudden? This made him embarrassed and angry, and he had to listen to the discussions around him. Therefore, when he heard the discussions around him, he could not help but think of the scene where he was beaten up yesterday. This made him even angrier. Wei Zilong's face was filled with anger as he led the crowd toward the spectators' seats. Why did you let me sit here? Wei Zilong walked to the spectators' seats and looked at the empty seats below Yi Hao. Obviously, those were their seats. If he sat in those seats, it would naturally show that his status was lower than Yi Hao's. This made him very unhappy. In his opinion, as the crown prince of the Fire Beacon Dynasty, even if he could not sit on the throne now, he should be able to sit at the same level as Yi Hao. At the very least, he should be able to sit at the same level as Yi Hao. Only then would he be able to live up to his status. Therefore, Wei Zilong did not stand on ceremony as he looked at Yi Hao and asked directly, "What kind of tone is he using to speak to my emperor? This is outrageous. How dare he speak to my emperor like that? This is normal. After all, he is the crown prince of the dynasty. He speaks to His Majesty like that because he has the confidence." Chapter 11:26. Therefore, the citizens of Tianyuan Kingdom were very unhappy when they saw Wei Zilong's attitude towards Yi Hao. "Why aren't you sitting down?" Yi Hao looked at Wei Zilong when he heard what Wei Zilong said. "Men, take the chair away," Yi Hao said before Wei Zilong could say anything. "You." Wei Zilong was furious when he heard what Yi Hao said. Yi Hao did not give him any face at all. Wei Zilong flung his sleeves and sat down. What a joke. If he did not sit down, the chair would be taken away. He could not just stand there and watch the fight. "Bastard, I'll teach you a lesson soon." Wei Zilong clenched his fists and thought angrily to Yi Hao. Ha ha ha. No one expected Yi Hao to not give Wei Zilong any face. They were angry at Wei Zilong for being so arrogant. However, they did not expect Wei Zilong to be defeated so quickly. They all burst out laughing. Let the competition begin. Each side will send one person. Wei Zilong's expression changed again and again. Hearing the unscrupulous whispers around him, his face turned ashen. Wei Zilong tried his best to calm down the anger in his heart as he spoke. "All right, Wang Jin, you go," Yi Hao said to one of his generals when he heard what Wei Zilong said. This general was a demon overlord who was recruited by Tianyuan Kingdom. He used to be a rogue cultivator, but now he was under Yi Hao's command. His cultivation level was also raised to level 2 Atman body realm by Yi Hao's elixir. He was quite strong. Wang Jin's cultivation level was greatly increased by Yi Hao's elixir. He trusted Yi Hao very much, and his loyalty to Yi Hao was at its peak. Wang Jin knew that if it was not for Yi Hao, he would not be able to break through to Atman body realm in his lifetime. "Yes, Your Majesty." Wang Jin stood on the stage when he heard Yi Hao's words. "Who is Wang Jin? I've never heard of anything good." Someone sent by His Majesty to fight against the Fire Beacon Dynasty must be quite strong. It seems like Wang Jin is an expert whom His Majesty has just subdued. I wonder what his cultivation is. Many people looked at the burly Wang Jin standing on the stage and couldn't help but discuss. However, The majority of them had never heard of Wang Jin's name. I am Wang Jin of the Tianyuan Kingdom, a member of the Fire Beacon Dynasty. Who dares fight me? Wang Jin stood in the arena. He knew that this was a good opportunity for him to become famous. Moreover, he also wanted to perform well in front of Yi Hao. Therefore, Wang Jin did not keep a low profile at all. Standing on the arena, he directly unleashed his cultivation and shouted, "Oh my God, this general is so powerful. I didn't expect this general to have such a cultivation level, even though I've never heard of him. This general's cultivation is probably at least a spiritualist." Originally, there were still quite a few people who doubted Wang Jin's strength. However, when they saw the aura Wang Jin was emitting, they couldn't help but feel shocked. Then, their faces were filled with excitement. This, another Atman body realm expert. How is it possible that the Tianyuan Kingdom has so many Atman body realm experts? Since when did the Tianyuan Kingdom become so strong? They have so many Atman body realm experts. At this moment, the people from the four kingdoms were looking at Wang Jin with a shocked expression. They couldn't help but take in a deep breath. Obviously, they thought that Yi Hao would send Yin Liang or Huang Zhong, because in their opinion, Yi Hao's subordinates were probably only those two Atman body realm experts. However, they didn't expect that Wang Jin would also be an Atman body realm expert. This meant that Yi Hao had 3 Atman body realm experts under his command. Thinking of this, their hearts were no doubt even more shocked. I didn't expect there to be another Atman body realm expert. Wei Zilong was slightly surprised when he saw Wang Jin's aura. Obviously, Wei Zilong also didn't expect Yi Hao to have another Atman body realm expert. However, after seeing Wei Zilong's cultivation, Wei Zilong's face fell. This was because he brought 5 Atman body realm experts with him. No matter who it was, they were all much stronger than Wang Jin. Which one you will go? Wei Zilong looked at the 5 Atman body realm experts he brought with him. This person is too weak. I'm too lazy to fight him. Such a weak piece of trash. How dare he stand out? Sai, it seems like the Tianyuan Kingdom really has no one we can use. Feng Wu, why don't you do it? Immediately, 4 Atman body realm experts looked at Wang Jin with disdain. Obviously, they didn't put Wang Jin in their eyes and couldn't be bothered to fight him. You're all courting death. Wang Jin didn't expect that the people of the Fire Beacon Dynasty would dare to ignore him. This naturally infuriated Wang Jin. It wasn't easy for him to break through to the 2nd level of the Atman body realm, so he could show off and make a name for himself. However, who knew that he would be ignored before the battle even started? To him, this was simply the greatest humiliation. Your Highness, Feng Wu also wanted to refuse. Although he was beaten up by Yin Liang yesterday, it didn't mean that he didn't have pride. Therefore, he couldn't be bothered to fight Wang Jin. Feng Wu, go ahead, don't disappoint me, Wei Zilong said without waiting for Feng Wu to refuse. Yes, Your Highness. Hearing Wei Zilong's words, Feng Wu had no choice but to agree. Then I'll let you wash away my shame, Feng Wu shouted. Thinking of the scene where he was slapped yesterday, he was even more furious. Therefore, when Feng Wu saw Wang Jin, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. He looked at Wang Jin as if he was looking at a dead man. Obviously, at this moment, he saw Wang Jin as Yin Liang. Go to hell. Feng Wu clenched his fists and rushed towards Wang Jin. Good, you're the one who's going to die. Seeing Feng Wu rushing towards him, Wang Jin didn't show any fear. Instead, he was excited. Seeing Wang Jin's expression, Yi Hao frowned. The reason for that was because he had instructed Wang Jin from the very beginning that no matter who he encountered, he was not to fight against them. Instead, he was to directly admit defeat. This was because he had some understanding of the Atman body realm cultivators that Wei Zilong had brought. They were definitely not people that Wang Jin, a mere 2nd-level Atman body realm cultivator, could deal with. He had sent Wang Jin out to make up the number of people, but only sending a demon emperor would damage the reputation of the Tianyuan Kingdom. Therefore, for the reputation of the Tianyuan Kingdom, he had raised Wang Jin's cultivation. Although a 2nd-level Atman body realm cultivator wasn't enough in front of the people that Wei Zilong had brought. But in the kingdom, he was still considered a strong cultivator, so it would be useful to keep him. Chapter 11:27. Looking at the excited Wang Jin in the ring, Wei Zilong had a mocking expression on his face. Boom! Their fists collided with each other. Feng Wu stood where he was and did not move at all. On the other hand, Wang Jin was like a kite with a broken string as he flew out at high speed. Boom! Wang Jin directly smashed into the ground. A huge crater instantly appeared on the ground. At this moment, everyone could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. One had to know that Wang Jin was a level 2 Atman body warrior. In the eyes of many, the aura that Wang Jin released just now was enough to make him the god of war of the Tianyuan kingdom. However, Wang Jin had been instantly killed with a single move. This meant that the two of them were simply not on the same level at all. Therefore, everyone looked at Feng Wu with reverence, because Feng Wu was too powerful. At this moment, a Tianyuan kingdom guard ran to Wang Jin to check. Then, the guard looked at Yi Hao and shook his head at Yi Hao. This meant that Wang Jin could not be saved. Ha ha! Tianyuan kingdom is full of trash. They can't even take a beating. After killing Wang Jin, Yi Hao felt everyone looking at him in awe. Feng Wu finally felt that he had vented his anger. After all, he was beaten up yesterday and was ridiculed. This made him angry and aggrieved. Therefore, he prepared for a day to get back at them. Thus, he immediately unleashed all of his strength to kill Wang Jin right from the start. He wanted to embarrass Yi Hao. At this moment, Yi Hao's expression was somewhat displeased. Even though this Wang Jin did not listen to his advice and deserved to die, Yi Hao's face was filled with displeasure. However, he was killed by someone from the Fire Beacon dynasty. Looking at Feng Wu's arrogant face, how could he not be angry? Haha, Tianyuan kingdom is too weak. At this moment, Wei Zilong sneered. Your Highness, is there need to think about it? It's just a small kingdom. It's no match for our Fire Beacon dynasty. Yes, don't worry. We can destroy Tianyuan kingdom. Hearing Wei Zilong's words, a group of people hurriedly flattered him. It was as if they had ignored Yi Hao and did not put him in their eyes at all. Preposterous. These people are too arrogant. Aren't they humiliating Tianyuan kingdom and his majesty? These people are too despicable and too arrogant. This is a blatant provocation. Hearing Feng Wu and Wei Zilong's words, many citizens of Tianyuan kingdom started to discuss with dissatisfaction. At the same time, many of them were worried. Seeing how powerful Feng Wu was, they were worried for Tianyuan kingdom and Yi Hao. If Wei Zilong's men were all so powerful, Tianyuan kingdom would not be able to deal with Wei Zilong. That would mean that the Tianyuan kingdom would lose for sure. If Tianyuan kingdom was defeated, Tianyuan kingdom would be. Therefore, the atmosphere in the Tianyuan kingdom became increasingly gloomy. I didn't expect Tianyuan kingdom to have such a bad start. That's a level 2 Atman body realm cultivator. It's such a waste to kill him. A dynasty is indeed a dynasty. They are really powerful. Our kingdom has an Atman body realm cultivator who is respected by thousands of people. However, he was killed instantly. Looks like Tianyuan kingdom will have to send Yin Liang or Huang Zhong. There are 5 rounds. Even if Yin Liang and Huang Zhong win, Tianyuan kingdom will still lose if they lose the other rounds. Moreover, the Fire Beacon dynasty might have just arrived. There are people who are on par with Yin Liang and Huang Zhong. The people from the 4 great kingdoms were also in the spectator stands at this moment, and they were all discussing this. You're courting death. How dare you be so arrogant in Tianyuan kingdom? Do you dare to fight with me? Right at this moment, Yin Liang suddenly stood out and looked directly at Feng Wu as he shouted explosively. Seeing Yin Liang's gaze, Feng Wu's heart skipped a beat. He instinctively avoided Yin Liang's gaze. This was because Feng Wu knew that he was no match for Yin Liang. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been beaten up by Yin Liang yesterday. Hence, he didn't dare to fight with Yin Liang. Who is this general? I didn't expect the Fire Beacon dynasty to be so powerful. Even this general dares to stand out. Could it be that this general has the strength to fight against the Fire Beacon dynasty? I'm not sure. However, to be able to stand out at this moment, it doesn't matter if he has the strength or not. He's still a man. The citizens of the Tianyuan kingdom, who were originally in low spirits, looked at Yin Liang, who had suddenly stepped forward. They couldn't help but look at Yin Liang with admiration. As expected, they sent Yin Liang. Seeing Yin Liang stand out, the people of the four kingdoms revealed an as expected expression. The rules of the competition are that each person can only fight one round. Although I would like to fight with you, I can't break the rules, Feng Wu said. He looked like he was following the rules. Although he knew that he wasn't as good as Yin Liang, he couldn't show any weakness in front of so many people. If he showed any weakness, it would be a disgrace to the Fire Beacon dynasty. Wei Zilong definitely wouldn't let him off easily. You're just a loser, yet you speak so righteously. Does your face still hurt? Yin Liang sneered when he heard Feng Wu's words. You, don't go too far. Feng Wu hadn't expected Yin Liang to rub salt into his wounds. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. Being slapped in the face while kneeling was a sullen thought. However, he couldn't beat Yin Liang. Hence, he could only glare at Yin Liang furiously. What did he say? He said that he was going too far. Did I hear wrongly? He's so powerful and arrogant. How could he say that he was going too far? No, look. There seems to be a palm print on his face. Just now, that general asked if your face still hurt. Could it be that the general hit you? That can't be. The people of the Fire Beacon dynasty are so powerful. How strong would the person who slapped him be? When the citizens of Tianyuan Kingdom heard Feng Wu's words, they began to analyze the situation with shock. Enough! Wei Zilong was extremely displeased to see that Feng Wu had been frightened by Yin Liang. He directly opened his mouth and roared. Enough! Hearing Wei Zilong's roar, everyone turned their gazes back to Wei Zilong. You dog, don't be too arrogant. Arrogance comes with a price. Wei Zilong narrowed his eyes at Yin Liang. Chapter 1128. You're asking for it. Hearing Yin Liang's words, Wei Zilong was enraged. He did not expect Yin Liang to be so reckless and not give him any face. One had to know that there were so many people here. If they didn't give him face, it would be like slapping his face. Your Highness, please calm down. Let me deal with him. At this moment, an old man behind Wei Zilong suddenly stood up. I want you to kill him, Wei Zilong said in a low voice. Don't worry, Your Highness. The old man nodded. Dog, how dare you be so arrogant in front of His Highness? Do you dare to fight me in the arena? The old man took out his weapon and jumped into the arena. The reason why the old man took out his weapon was because of Wei Zilong. That was also because he had heard of Yin Liang's strength, so he had to be cautious. That was because he had promised Wei Zilong that he would kill Yin Liang. How could he possibly be careless? He's just an old dog. Why wouldn't I dare? Hearing the old man's words, Yin Liang also jumped into the arena. Feng Wu looked at the two people in the arena and tactfully left the arena in a hurry. Let the battle begin. At this moment, a voice rang out. Ha! The old man roared. The spiritual energy in his body surged as he activated his spiritual technique and attacked Yin Liang. The old man's spiritual energy was very strong. His cultivation, he's at least at level 10 Atman body realm. Oh my god, level 10 Atman body realm. He's only one step away from the spiritual martial realm. Looking at his spiritual energy, I can tell that he has been at level 10 Atman body realm for a long time. If that's the case, Yin Liang is probably not his match. Seeing the old man attack, the people from the four great kingdoms were shocked. Looking at the old man attacking him, Yin Liang's lips curled into a disdainful smile. If he did not take the elixir that Yi Hao gave him, he would not have broken through to the spiritual martial realm. He might have really thought highly of the old man. But now that he had broken through to the spiritual martial realm, the old man was strong, but he was no match for him. Therefore, although Yin Liang was holding a broadsword, he stood still in the same spot. General, why are you still standing there? General, hurry up and make a move. If you don't, it'll be too late. What the hell is going on? The citizens of the Tianyuan Kingdom felt their hearts skip a beat when they saw the old man's aura. When they saw Yin Liang standing there motionlessly, they immediately panicked. Huh? This idiot can't have been scared silly, right? He's actually not moving at all. Wei Zilong looked at Yin Liang, who stood motionless. He was stunned for a moment before he opened his mouth to mock him. Your Highness, this dog is only SOSO. He's just courting death. How is this courting death? He's just standing there without moving. He's simply courting death. And here I thought that this dog really had some skills. Hearing Wei Zilong's words, the people behind Wei Zilong looked at Yin Liang as though they were looking at an idiot. The old man, standing on the stage, was one of the strongest Atman body cultivators among the 5 of them. Furthermore, he had been at the peak of the 10th level of Atman body realm for a long time. Among the Atman body realm cultivators, he was almost invincible. However, Yin Liang actually remained motionless under his attack. If this wasn't seeking his own death, then what was? What's going on? Why is Yin Liang not moving at all? What's going on? The people of the 4 kingdoms were also puzzled as they looked at Yin Liang, who was still standing in the same spot. The old man was indeed powerful, but they had also seen Yin Liang's strength. He was also very strong. Therefore, no matter what, Yin Liang couldn't possibly be frightened and remain motionless. At that moment, everyone present was looking at Yin Liang in confusion. Dog, you're courting your own death. The old man's lips curled up into a relaxed smile. He didn't expect Yin Liang to be frightened by him and remain motionless. He could kill Yin Liang so easily, which would definitely make Wei Zilong very happy. In the old man's smile, the weapon in the old man's hand was infused with spiritual energy as it ruthlessly crushed towards Yin Liang. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely die under this attack. There was no hope of escaping. You've had enough fun, Yin Liang suddenly said. What? Everyone was stunned when they heard Yin Liang's words. Then they were shocked. They didn't expect Yin Liang to dare to say that his opponent was playing under such a powerful attack. Was he being arrogant, or was he being too confident in his own strength? You're courting death. Hearing Yin Liang's words, the old man received the greatest provocation. The spiritual energy in the weapon increased by a few more points. Have you experienced despair before? Seeing the old man's anger, Yin Liang remained motionless and asked with a smile. The old man ignored Yin Liang. He only wanted to kill Yin Liang now. What is he trying to do? Everyone looked at Yin Liang, who was still so calm at this moment. They were even more puzzled. Now, Yin Liang suddenly roared. Then, the sword in his hand moved, and the spiritual energy in his body started to surge rapidly. Boom! The 2 weapons had not collided, but the spiritual energy of the 2 had already collided. When the spiritual energy collided, there was a loud roar. Gulp so strong. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them and swallowed their saliva at the same time. The general has made his move. The general's aura is so strong too. He's too strong. When the citizens of Tianyuan Kingdom saw Yin Liang making his move, they were all excited. They were really worried that Yin Liang would be killed by the old man if he didn't make his move. This was related to the honor of Tianyuan Kingdom and the survival of Tianyuan Kingdom. How could they not be worried? When they saw Yin Liang making his move and the spiritual energy in his body didn't lose to the old man's, they saw a glimmer of hope for Yin Liang's victory. Immediately, the citizens of Tianyuan Kingdom started to get nervous. They didn't dare to blink their eyes as they watched the battle on the stage. Yin Liang is so strong. His aura doesn't lose to the people of Fire Beacon Dynasty. Could Yin Liang be a level 10 Atman body realm cultivator? Oh my god! How did the Emperor of Tianyuan Kingdom do it? He actually has a level 10 Atman body realm cultivator as his subordinate. This battle is going to be interesting. It's hard to say who will win this time. The citizens of the 4 kingdoms were also shocked as they looked at the stage. They knew that Yin Liang was strong, but they didn't dare to think that Yin Liang was a level 10 Atman body realm cultivator. Hiss, this dog is really strong. Chapter 1129. How is this possible? The old man's heart sank. The reason for that was because he could sense that the power that Yin Liang was emitting was not any weaker than his. He was shocked. He thought that Yin Liang was strong, but he estimated that he was only at rank 8 or 9 Atman Body Realm. Even rank 10 Atman Body Realm should not be his match. After all, he had been in the Atman Body Realm for a long time, almost half a step into the spiritual martial realm. However, Yin Liang's strength was on par with his. How could he not be shocked? That was because, no matter how he looked at it, Yin Liang was much younger than him. However, Yin Liang had such strength. What did this mean? This meant that Yin Liang's talent was much stronger than his. He really couldn't understand why such a talented person would serve a mere kingdom. One had to know that with Yin Liang's talent, even if he were to be brought to an empire, he would be an existence that many empires would fight over. Looks like I have underestimated you. Although the old man was shocked by Yin Liang's strength, he immediately attacked again with his battle experience. In his opinion, even if their strength was on par, there was a difference in battle experience. In his opinion, Yin Liang's battle experience was definitely not as good as his. Therefore, he was prepared to use his battle experience to crush Yin Liang. Underestimating me? You will pay a heavy price. Hearing the old man's words and seeing the old man attack again, Yin Liang was relaxed and smiled disdainfully. Looks like this is going to be a long battle. No one expected Yin Liang to be on par with the old man. Therefore, they all had the same thought. I would like to see what price I will pay. Hearing Yin Liang's words, the old man's attack landed once again. Although the old man's attack did not increase by much this time, it was extremely fast and clean. With one look, one could see that it was accumulated through years of battle experience. Elder Yan's battle experience is indeed rich. Seeing the old man's attack, Wei Zilong nodded with satisfaction. If nothing goes wrong, Elder Yin will definitely win this battle. That's right. Although that dog is strong, he is definitely not Elder Yan's match. It's normal for Elder Yin to win, but this battle is unavoidable. After all, there is not much difference in their strength. As soon as Wei Zilong finished speaking, the crowd behind him chimed in one after another. However, it was clear that they all thought very highly of the old man, Old Yin. Who do you think will win? At this moment, the South Protecting King of the Yin Song Kingdom suddenly asked. I feel that the person from a Fire Beacon Dynasty has a higher chance of winning. I also feel that the Fire Beacon Dynasty has a higher chance of winning. Why does the Fire Beacon Dynasty have a higher chance of winning? Look at the old man from the Fire Beacon Dynasty. He has a lot of battle experience and is not easy to deal with. I don't think so. Why not? Although we can see that the Fire Beacon Dynasty's old man has a lot of battle experience, we still don't know how Yin Liang's battle experience is. As soon as the South Protecting King finished speaking, everyone started to discuss. Good luck, General Yin Liang. General Yin Liang will win. General Yin Liang is the glory of Tianyuan. At this moment, a large group of citizens suddenly looked at Yin Liang and started to cheer for him. When Yin Liang saw that the old man's attack was about to land again, he raised a large blade in his hand again and slashed out. Bang! The crisp sound of weapons clashing suddenly rang out. Just when everyone thought that the two of them would be evenly matched again, the weapon in the old man's hand suddenly flew out. What's going on? When everyone saw this scene, they instantly went into an uproar. Just when no one knew what was going on, Yin Liang's large blade once again slashed at the old man. The old man's expression immediately turned ugly. He ignored the pain in his arm and started to retreat quickly. However, it was obvious that Yin Liang had already expected this. The old man's path of retreat was normal. The large blade in Yin Liang's hand happened to be aimed at the old man's path of retreat. The old man's expression changed again. Large droplets of sweat dripped down his face. Old Yin, be careful. Seeing the dangerous situation the old man was in, Wei Zilong immediately stood up and yelled loudly. At this moment, everyone's hearts were in their mouths as they watched this scene nervously. Obviously, they did not expect that Yin Liang would gain the upper hand in the blink of an eye and even send the old man's weapon flying. Obviously, They could also see that the old man was in a very dangerous situation at this moment. In fact, even without hearing Wei Zilong shout, old Yin knew that he was in danger and needed to dodge again. However, it was obvious that it would not be as easy to dodge this time. The old man reacted quickly and quickly took out another weapon. However, because of what happened just now, it was not as easy for his right hand to hold the weapon again. Therefore, the old man held the weapon in his left hand and quickly blocked Yan Liang's attack. This was because if he did not block it, the old man did not think that his body could withstand the attack of Yan Liang's weapon. Bang! The crisp sound of metal clashing rang out again. The weapon in the old man's hand flew out again. Hiss! Pain came from his left hand, and the old man immediately took a deep breath. He did not doubt that if he had not reacted so quickly and blocked Yan Liang's attack with his weapon, he would have been cut. He reckoned that he would have been cut in half by Yan Liang's weapon. How can this be ** be so powerful? The old man did not have time to think and quickly continued to dodge because Yan Liang's attack had come again. How is this possible? Everyone who saw this scene was in an uproar. All of them stared at the ring without blinking. Everyone could not believe what was happening in front of them. This was because everyone had thought that Yan Liang would not be able to defeat the old man. Many of them were deeply worried about Yan Liang. But now, in just the second round, the old man was actually at a disadvantage. The weapon in his hand was sent flying out his hand twice. What did this mean? This meant that it was not Yan Liang who was no match for the old man, but the old man who was no match for Yan Liang. He is actually stronger than old Yan. How is this possible? Wei Zilong's face turned ugly at this moment. Chapter 1130. Oh my god, this Yan Liang is too strong. Looks like we've underestimated this Yan Liang. His weapon was sent flying twice. What a huge difference. When the people of the Four Kingdoms saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock as well. Obviously, they were also shocked by Yan Liang's strength. Elder Yin, quickly surrender. Although Wei Zilong was unwilling to believe it, and was even more unwilling to say those words, for the sake of old Yan's life, he had no choice but to shout. After all, an Atman Body Realm expert was too precious, and a level 10 Atman Body Realm expert was even more precious. In the Fire Beacon Dynasty, they were considered the top forces. Even the Fire Beacon Dynasty could not afford to lose them. Losing a level 10 Atman Body Realm expert would definitely reduce the strength of the Fire Beacon Dynasty. Therefore, he had no choice but to ask Elder Yin to surrender. This was because the rules of the competition stated that as long as the contestant admitted defeat, the opponent could not harm the contestant's life. What? Wei Zilong is going to give up? This is incredible. Wei Zilong is going to admit defeat. General Yan Liang is indeed formidable. Everyone was surprised when they heard Wei Zilong's words. After all, Wei Zilong was extremely arrogant at the beginning. At this moment, he was no longer as arrogant as he was at the beginning. Elder Yin heaved a sigh of relief when he heard Wei Zilong's words. One must know that he had wanted to admit defeat for a long time, but he was concerned about his reputation, so he did not say anything. Now that Wei Zilong had finally given him a way out, he had to follow the steps. After all, he did not want to die. His weapon was sent flying twice by Yan Liang. He was unwilling to admit it, but he had to admit that he was not Yan Liang's opponent. At this moment, his arms were shaken. Even if he picked up his weapon, he could not attack normally. This meant that his attack power was greatly reduced. In other words, if this continued, his life would be in danger. Therefore, Elder Yin hurriedly said, Boom! Just as Elder Yin opened his mouth, Yan Liang's spiritual energy burst out once again and suppressed the old man. The strong spiritual energy directly oppressed the old man. For a moment, the old man didn't react at all. He was so focused on admitting defeat that he didn't expect Yan Liang to activate his spiritual energy again. Furthermore, this spiritual energy was extremely strong, making it impossible for him to open his mouth and admit defeat. Therefore, the old man had no choice but to use his own spiritual power to resist Yan Liang's spiritual power. Puchi, However, before he could fully activate his spiritual power, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his chest. Then he felt a sweet taste in his throat, and a mouthful of blood gushed out from his mouth. Elder Yin lowered his head and saw that Yin Liang's broadsword was already stabbed into his chest. Yin Liang, on the other hand, stood far away. Elder Yin didn't understand how the broadsword had pierced his chest. Of course, many people present had noticed that Yin Liang had thrown the broadsword in his hand out, and the broadsword had accurately pierced into Elder Yan's chest. Of course, to a powerhouse at Yin Liang's level, such an attack was simply a piece of cake. And if Elder Yin wanted to defend himself, it would be a piece of cake. Moreover, if Elder Yin had destroyed Yin Liang's weapon, it would have brought some pressure and obstruction to Yin Liang. However, Elder Yan's mind was focused on resisting Yin Liang's spiritual power, so he didn't expect or notice that Yin Liang had thrown the broadsword in his hand. Otherwise, Yin Liang wouldn't have been able to kill the old man so easily. The old man's eyes were filled with unwillingness, because he could feel his vitality slowly dissipating. Even if he was beaten to death, he didn't expect that he would die in the eyes of someone he had looked down on from the start. He had become Yin Liang's stepping stone in a moment of carelessness. Thud, thud, thud. Yin Liang walked in front of the old man and pulled out his broadsword. Plop! After the broadsword was pulled out, the old man fell to the ground and lost his vitality. He can actually kill someone from the Fire Beacon Dynasty. Heavens! He's actually able to kill the Fire Beacon Dynasty's people before they could shout out their surrender. Only the word powerful can describe him. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect Yin Liang to be so powerful. He's definitely at the peak of the Atman body realm. Fortunately, we didn't anger Emperor Tianyuan. Otherwise, it would have been disadvantageous for us. The people of the Four Kingdoms looked at the old man's corpse with reverence as they looked at Yin Liang. Many of them felt as if they had just walked through the gates of hell. This was because many of them had disrespected Yi Hao before. Some of them even thought about killing Yi Hao. Now that they thought about it, it was a wise choice not to do so. Otherwise, whether or not they could have survived until now was really a big problem. We won. We won. We actually won a round. General Yin Liang is so mighty and domineering. General Yin Liang, you are my idol. General Yin Liang, I admire you so much. General Yin Liang, you are the hero of the Tianyuan Kingdom. In this world, the strong were respected. The hearts of the people of the Tianyuan Kingdom fell to the bottom after Wang Jin was killed. Later on, when he saw that Elder Yan's strength was actually stronger than Feng Wu's, he was shocked. Their hearts were broken, and they no longer had any hope for the Tianyuan Kingdom. Everyone thought that Yin Liang would lose. But who would have thought that not only did Yin Liang not lose, he even knocked away Elder Yan's weapon twice within 3 moves. Not only that, but Yin Liang was even able to attack a 4th time when Old Yin was about to admit defeat, directly killing him. Therefore, Yin Liang's powerful strength convinced all the people of the Tianyuan Kingdom. It also swept away the gloominess in the hearts of the people of the Tianyuan Kingdom. It gave them hope that the Tianyuan Kingdom could win the battle against the Fire Beacon Dynasty. Elder Yin, Wei Zilong looked at Yin Liang's corpse, and his face turned gloomy as he roared furiously. Wei Zilong's eyes were vicious and filled with murderous intent as he looked at Yin Liang. You are courting death. How dare you kill someone from the Fire Beacon Dynasty? You have already killed him. What's the use of saying so much nonsense? Yin Liang laughed disdainfully when he heard Wei Zilong's words. Wei Zilong saw that Yin Liang did not give him any face. He looked directly at Yi Hao. Isn't the Tianyuan Kingdom afraid of the Fire Beacon Dynasty's anger? Chapter 1131. That's right. If your Fire Beacon Dynasty can kill my Tianyuan Kingdom's people, why can't my Tianyuan Kingdom kill your Fire Beacon Dynasty's people? Your Majesty is right. Your Majesty is right. As soon as Yi Hao finished speaking, he received the support of many Tianyuan Kingdom citizens. Hearing Yi Hao's words and hearing the discussions of the Tianyuan Kingdom citizens, Wei Zilong was furious. That was a level 10 Atman body elite, and he was killed just like that. Whether it was him or the Fire Beacon Dynasty's strength, it would have an impact. Looking at Elder Yan's corpse, Wei Zilong felt as if his heart was bleeding. He did not expect Yin Liang to be so fast that he could kill Elder Yin before he could admit defeat. You what? If you can't afford to play, then don't play. Do you still dare to compete? If you don't, then get out of my Tianyuan kingdom. Seeing Wei Zilong's angry face, Yi Hao said impatiently. Everyone was shocked when they heard Yi Hao's words, because in their imagination, the emperor must be a very serious and old-fashioned existence. However, the current Yi Hao was clearly different from what they had imagined. Haha, your majesty is right. That's right. Fire Beacon Dynasty. If you can't afford to play, then don't talk nonsense. If you don't dare to play, then get out of my Tianyuan kingdom. Yi Hao's words caused many people to praise him again. Hearing all the people's words, Yi Hao could not help but nod his head in satisfaction. This was because he could sense that, without him realizing it, his prestige among his people was constantly increasing. Tianyuan kingdom, please send someone. Wei Zilong held back the anger in his heart as he looked at Yi Hao and said through gritted teeth. If looks could kill, Wei Zilong's angry look could kill Yi Hao hundreds of times. However, this time, Wei Zilong did not take the initiative to send someone. Instead, he was cautious. This was because he also knew of Huang Zhong's existence. In his opinion, Huang Zhong's strength should also be extraordinary. Therefore, he wanted his experts to avoid Huang Zhong. In this way, they would use the weak on their side to exhaust Yi Hao's strong men. This would definitely be beneficial to him. He had to win 2 more rounds. Otherwise, he would have lost a lot of face this time. He was the crown prince of an imperial dynasty, and he had aggressively brought people to compete with people from a royal kingdom. In the end, he had lost. If that were to spread, others would definitely laugh their heads off. To be honest, he did not expect that this mere kingdom would be much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Originally, he had brought his men to destroy the Tianyuan kingdom purely to gain merits and increase his reputation, so that he could prepare for his future ascension to the throne. But now, who would have thought that things would turn out this way? As soon as he arrived at Tianyuan kingdom, he wanted to look for Yi Hao to show off. But who would have thought that before he could even start to show off, he would be beaten up? This was the first time in his life that he had been beaten up. He had wanted to wait until the competition to crush the Tianyuan kingdom and humiliate Yi Hao to vent his anger. He had been very satisfied with the first round. He had killed one of Yi Hao's men at the start of the competition. But who would have thought that it would be his men who died in the second round? Moreover, he was in the wrong, so he could not say anything more. After all, it was his men who had killed Yi Hao's men first, and then Yi Hao's men would kill his men. This was not a problem at all. Moreover, his men did not shout surrender, and Yin Liang did not break any rules. Therefore, he could not use this as an excuse to make a fuss. For the sake of winning the competition, he had to be cautious. His only worry now was Huang Zhong. He believed that even if Huang Zhong lost the first round, he would win the remaining 2 rounds. Therefore, he was waiting to see who Yi Hao would send out first. He would then decide who to send out first. Who would have thought that His Highness Wei Zilong would be intimidated? I think he is afraid of Huang Zhong. I think so too. But His Highness Wei Zilong was so arrogant just now, and now he is so calm. It must have something to do with Yan Liang's strength. The people from the 4 kingdoms were shocked when they heard that Wei Zilong was not as arrogant this time. He was actually waiting for Yi Hao to send out his men first. Huang Zhong, you go. Yi Hao did not think much, and directly said to Huang Zhong behind him, Yes, your highness. When Huang Zhong heard Yi Hao's words, he immediately jumped into the arena. Huang Zhong faced Yin Liang. He nodded and then shouted, Who from the Fire Beacon Dynasty dares to fight with me? Yin Liang looked at Huang Zhong as he appeared in the arena. He also nodded and jumped down from the arena to make room for Huang Zhong. As expected, Huang Zhong is going out. When Wei Zilong saw Huang Zhong come out, he was immediately delighted. This was because he had guessed that Huang Zhong would be the 3rd person from the Tianyuan kingdom to step out. Now that he had guessed correctly, he was naturally very happy. You go. Wei Zilong was also very direct. He pointed to a middle-aged man who was about as strong as Feng Wu. Yes, that middle-aged man nodded his head as well. Remember to test his cultivation. If you feel that something is wrong, immediately surrender. Although Wei Zilong was prepared to admit defeat in this round, he did not have a clear understanding of the situation. However, before he had a complete understanding of Huang Zhong's strength, he naturally did not wish to admit defeat so easily. Moreover, he did not forget to remind the middle-aged man to be careful. This was because he had a feeling that Huang Zhong's strength was not ordinary. Therefore, he was also prepared to admit defeat, because even if he admitted defeat, he did not want to put the man's life in danger. After all, he had already lost Elder Yin, which was enough to make him feel the pain. He absolutely could not lose another Atman Body Realm expert. As expected, Huang Zhong is going to fight. I just don't know how Huang Zhong's strength is compared to Yin Liang's. Yin Liang's strength is already so strong. In my opinion, Huang Zhong should not be as strong as Yin Liang. I think so too. If Huang Zhong is as strong as Yin Liang, then the Tianyuan kingdom is really too strong. But just as we guessed, His Highness Wei Zilong is indeed afraid of Huang Zhong, so he let the Tianyuan kingdom send out their people first. In my opinion, the Tianyuan kingdom will win this round. I don't think so. After all, we don't know Huang Zhong's true strength. Moreover, even if Huang Zhong wins, there's still 2 more rounds. I guess the Tianyuan kingdom will not be able to send out an Atman Body Realm expert. But to be able to win 2 out of 5 rounds against the Tianyuan kingdom is already very good. Chapter 1132. Let me have a go at you. The middle-aged man from the Fire Beacon dynasty leaped and pounced towards Huang Zhong. The aura of a level 8 Atman body was fully revealed as it crushed towards Huang Zhong. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Huang Zhong looked at the middle-aged man who was pouncing towards him. He immediately picked up his bow and shot out dozens of arrows. The arrows formed a net in one go and shot towards the middle-aged man at high speed. The middle-aged man's expression changed. Because he had leaped, he was now in a state of being in the air. Therefore, looking at the arrows coming towards him from all directions gave him a headache. Because he didn't know how to dodge at all. Because no matter how he dodged, he would obviously be hit by the arrows. Looking at the powerful force contained in the arrows, one look was enough to shake one's soul. The middle-aged man knew that it would be extremely difficult to shoot down these arrows. Be careful. Wei Zilong saw this scene, and his heart was immediately raised. He didn't expect Huang Zhong to have such a trick up his sleeve. Looking at the middle-aged man being attacked from both sides, Wei Zilong's heart was also extremely nervous. The middle-aged man was obviously in a difficult position at this moment. Because he had no way to retreat, the cold sweat on his head was already very dense. The middle-aged man could only roar as the weapon in his hand slashed towards an arrow that he thought contained danger. Bang! A crisp sound of collision rang out. The arrow was hit by his huge force and couldn't help but deviate by quite a distance to the side. As for the middle-aged man, he took advantage of this powerful force and retreated backwards. This was undoubtedly a life and death situation, allowing him to survive in the cracks. However, he had no other choice. To him, being able to retreat and escape was definitely a good idea. At this moment, there were actually 2 arrows that streaked past him, making him feel a lingering fear. But fortunately, he borrowed the force of the arrows and finally dodged. The encirclement of dozens of arrows just now gave him hope of survival. At this moment, his back was already drenched in sweat, because what he had just experienced was undoubtedly a trip to the gates of hell. Whoosh, whoosh. But before he could heave a sigh of relief, several more arrows came flying at him. Let's see where you can hide. Huang Zhong sneered as he watched the middle-aged man dodge. When the middle-aged man heard Huang Zhong's words, he couldn't answer at all. The reason for that was because the arrows had once again formed an attack net that was even denser than before. The middle-aged man could only grit his teeth and prepare to repeat the method just now. Bang! Whoosh! Just as the middle-aged man's weapon struck an arrow, the middle-aged man's weapon struck the arrow. Suddenly, an arrow appeared out of nowhere and pierced into his chest. You. The middle-aged man looked at the arrow in his chest in disbelief. He didn't understand why there was an extra arrow. Do you think I'll let you succeed twice? Yin Liang sneered when he saw the middle-aged man's expression of disbelief. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. After being shot in the chest, the middle-aged man was unable to dodge the remaining arrows. He was directly shot in the chest by a pile of arrows. Puff! The middle-aged man spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body was smashed to the ground. Let me deal with you. The middle-aged man from the Fire Beacon dynasty leaped and pounced towards Huang Zhong. The aura of a level 8 Atman body was fully revealed as he charged towards Huang Zhong to crush him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Huang Zhong looked at the middle-aged man who was charging towards him. He immediately picked up his bow and shot out a dozen arrows. The arrows formed a net in one go and shot towards the middle-aged man at high speed. The middle-aged man's expression changed. Because he had leaped, he was currently in a state of being in the air. Therefore, looking at the arrows that were flying towards him from all directions gave him a headache. This was because he didn't know how to dodge at all. This was because no matter how he dodged, he would still be hit by the arrows. Looking at the powerful force contained in the arrow, one could feel their hearts and souls trembling just by looking at it. The middle-aged man knew that it would be extremely difficult to shoot down these arrows. Be careful. Seeing this scene, Wei Zilong's heart was suddenly raised. He didn't expect Huang Zhong to have such a trick up his sleeve. Seeing the middle-aged man being attacked from both sides, Wei Zilong's heart was also extremely nervous. The middle-aged man was obviously in a difficult position. This was because he had no way to retreat at all. Cold sweat had already formed on his head. The middle-aged man could only roar and use the weapon in his hand to slash at an arrow that he thought contained danger. Bang! A crisp sound of collision rang out. The arrow was hit by his huge force and couldn't help but deviate to the side by quite a distance. As for the middle-aged man, he took advantage of this powerful force and retreated backwards. This was undoubtedly a life and death situation, allowing him to survive in the cracks. However, he had no other choice. To him, a way to retreat and escape was definitely the best way. At this moment, there were actually 2 arrows that streaked past his body, causing him to feel a lingering fear in his heart. Fortunately, he used the force of the arrows to escape. The encirclement of more than 10 arrows just now gave him hope of survival. At this moment, his back was already drenched in sweat. This was because what he had just experienced was undoubtedly a trip to the gates of hell. Whoosh, whoosh. However, before he could heave a sigh of relief, a few more arrows flew towards him. Let's see where you can hide. Looking at the middle-aged man who was dodging, Huang Zhong sneered. When the middle-aged man heard Huang Zhong's words, he couldn't answer at all. This was because these arrows once again formed an attack net that was even denser than before. The middle-aged man could only grit his teeth and prepare to repeat the method just now. Bang! Whoosh! Just as the middle-aged man's weapon struck an arrow, the middle-aged man's weapon struck the arrow. Suddenly, an arrow appeared out of nowhere and directly pierced his chest. You. The middle-aged man looked at the arrow in his chest in disbelief. He didn't understand why there was an additional arrow. The same dodging method. How can I let you succeed twice? Looking at the middle-aged man's incredulous expression, Yin Liang couldn't help but sneer. Poochie, Poochie, Poochie. After being shot in the chest, the middle-aged man couldn't dodge the remaining arrows at all. A pile of arrows directly hit his chest. Poochie. Chapter 1133. Long live Tianyuan Kingdom. Long live Tianyuan Kingdom. Tianyuan Kingdom will win. Tianyuan Kingdom will win. Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! Long live General Huangzhong! All of a sudden, the citizens of Tianyuan Kingdom were in an uproar as they shouted excitedly. This was because they had already given up on the Tianyuan Kingdom. In their eyes, Tianyuan Kingdom was courting death by going against the Fire Beacon Dynasty. But now, Tianyuan Kingdom had already won 2 out of the 3 matches. Although the Tianyuan Kingdom had lost the first match badly, they had won the second and third matches perfectly. This was definitely out of their expectations. Now, they didn't need anything else. As long as Tianyuan Kingdom won one of the remaining 2 matches, Tianyuan Kingdom would win the competition completely. Tianyuan Kingdom's reputation would be greatly boosted if word got out that a kingdom was able to defeat an empire. To them, this was definitely a kind of glory. Your Highness, what should we do now? At this moment, one of the 2 Ottoman body realm experts behind Wei Zilong looked at Wei Zilong and asked, Elder Qian, it's up to you. Wei Zilong looked at the other elder and said solemnly, I understand, Your Highness. Elder Qian looked at Wei Zilong with a solemn expression and nodded. Hearing the conversation between Elder Qian and Wei Zilong, the other Ottoman body realm expert's expression changed slightly. Elder Qian, Your Highness. The other Ottoman body realm expert wanted to say something, but stopped himself. It's okay. For Your Highness, any sacrifice is worth it. I will win this match, Elder Qian said. Then, Elder Qian jumped onto the arena. Who from Tianyuan Kingdom dares to come up and fight with me? Elder Qian asked directly. Hearing Elder Qian's words, Guan Yu was about to jump onto the arena. However, he was stopped by Sun Shangxiang. General Guan, this person doesn't look like a good person. You're strong. For the sake of safety, you should wait for the next round. Even if I lose this round, we can still win. Guan Yu hesitated when he heard Sun Shangxiang's words. That was because he also felt a sense of danger from Old Qian's identity. Even if he were to face Old Qian, he would not necessarily have the certainty of victory. This kind of feeling was a mysterious feeling. He believed in his own intuition. It was definitely not wrong. However, Old Qian's strength was only at the Ottoman body realm and had not reached the spirit martial realm. This made Lin Fan wonder if Old Qian had some sort of hidden technique. And Sun Shangxiang actually took the initiative to face Old Qian. This was completely going all out and preparing to lose, so that he could fight the last battle. I'll go first, Sun Shangxiang said. He didn't wait for Guan Yu to finish his words and directly jumped into the arena. It's actually a girl. After seeing Sun Shangxiang, Old Qian's brows furrowed slightly. Come on, Sun Shangxiang was too lazy to talk nonsense. She also felt a dangerous aura from Old Qian. Therefore, she did not dare to delay and wanted to cut the Gordian knot. You're courting death. Seeing that Sun Shangxiang did not talk nonsense and was about to attack him, Old Qian was furious. Old Qian was also slightly angered, because even a woman dared to challenge him. To him, this was simply a humiliation. However, Old Qian did not use his trump card because he did not think highly of Sun Shangxiang, because he felt that Sun Shangxiang was not worthy enough for him to use his trump card. Haha, your Tianyuan Kingdom really has no one else. You actually sent out a girl. Wei Zilong was stunned when he saw Sun Shangxiang. Then he mocked. Obviously, Wei Zilong also did not think highly of Sun Shangxiang. Looks like the Tianyuan Kingdom no longer has any experts that can be used. A group of men did not make a move and actually sent out a girl. This is too ridiculous. Looks like our Fire Beacon Dynasty should win this round. What do you mean by should? You should know that with Old Qian taking action, our Fire Beacon Dynasty will definitely win this round. Wei Zilong's mocking voice rang out. The group of men that Wei Zilong brought along also started mocking. Why did His Majesty send out a female general this time? Could it be that we really don't have any experts left? Then what should we do? We only have one more round to win. Now that there are only 2 rounds left, there are no experts left. Won't our efforts be in vain, and we will lose? Therefore, when the citizens of the Tianyuan Kingdom saw Sun Shangxiang in the arena, they were stunned at first. Then, they could not help but discuss worriedly. Obviously, when they saw Sun Shangxiang, they did not believe in Sun Shangxiang's strength. The Tianyuan kingdom actually sent out a female general. Could it be that the Tianyuan kingdom still has a female expert? I think it's over. I think the Tianyuan kingdom has already sent out all their experts for the 2 rounds just now. The Tianyuan kingdom is probably unable to send out any experts. However, as a kingdom, it's already very good to be able to win 2 rounds from the dynasty. At this moment, the people from the 4 kingdoms who were present looked at Sun Shangxiang in the arena and started discussing. Sun Shangxiang knew that Elder Qian was not ordinary, so he directly took out the spiritual martial realm longsword that Yi Hao had given him. The longsword carries a sharp glint and a powerful force as it attacks Old Qian. Seeing Sun Shangxiang's attack, Elder Qian also took out his weapon to meet Sun Shangxiang's attack. Rumble. Clang. In the blink of an eye, the strong spiritual energy from the 2 of them had already collided. The weapons in the hands of the 2 men had already clashed against each other. However, in the next second, the 2 of them quickly retreated. Sun Shangxiang retreated 3 meters, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. On the other hand, the old man retreated 5 meters, and a trace of blood also appeared at the corner of his mouth. Most importantly, the old man's originally neat and tidy hair was now extremely disheveled. There was even a tear on his clothes. What's going on? At this very moment, everyone present was completely stunned, although they did not know who was stronger between the 2 of them. Just by looking at the number of steps that both of them retreated in their current state, they could tell who was stronger and who was weaker. They were not fools. At this moment, they could tell that Sun Shangxiang was much stronger than Elder Qian. This female general is so strong. Just now, someone seemed to say that the Tianyuan kingdom had no one else to send out, so they sent out a female general. In the end, they couldn't even defeat our female general. Who's to shame? Sigh, why do I feel that someone's face has been slapped so hard? Chapter 1134. When Wei Zilong and the others heard the discussions around them, their faces turned ugly. Damn Tianyuan kingdom. Where did they get so many experts? How can a woman be so strong? Wei Zilong cursed in his heart. Am I seeing things? That woman is so strong. Oh my God, Tianyuan kingdom is not to be trifled with. Even a woman is so strong. Looks like we're laughable. We've underestimated Tianyuan kingdom again. Could it be that Tianyuan kingdom is going to win this round again? The people from the 4 kingdoms looked at the powerful Sun Shangxiang and could not help but take in a breath of cold air. Every single one of them had a look of shock on their faces. Obviously, they did not expect Tianyuan kingdom to have such a strong expert. Moreover, it was a female expert. At this moment, they could not help but feel that Tianyuan kingdom was really well hidden. This isn't an ordinary weapon. Old Qian's face was solemn as he looked at the weapon in Sun Shangxiang's hand. His face was filled with fear. Elder Qian had just noticed that although Sun Shangxiang was strong, he was only on par with him. The reason why he was injured was obviously because of the weapon in Sun Shangxiang's hand. Could that be a weapon of the spiritual martial realm? Elder Qian suddenly thought of it. His eyes were filled with greed as he looked at the long sword in Sun Shangxiang's hand. Even though he was from the Fire Beacon dynasty and was a rank 10 Atman body realm expert, he had never possessed a weapon of the spiritual martial realm. He had never owned a weapon of the spiritual martial realm. He was very interested in a weapon of the spiritual martial realm. He was very greedy and longed for it. Unfortunately, weapons of the spiritual martial realm were considered rare in the Empire. They were like the treasures of the country. Even if there were any, they would not be used by people like him. He could not understand how Sun Shangxiang, a person from a small kingdom, could have such a powerful weapon. As the saying goes, a man's wealth is his own ruin. He could not wait to kill Sun Shangxiang and snatch Sun Shangxiang's weapon. To be honest, he was very envious and jealous of Sun Shangxiang. What? A weapon of the spiritual martial realm? Oh my god, did I hear wrongly? Tianyuan Kingdom actually has a weapon of the spiritual martial realm? How is that possible? That's too scary. At this moment, when the people from the four kingdoms heard Elder Qian's words, they were all excited. They had only heard of the weapons of the spiritual martial realm, but the four kingdoms had never had a weapon of the spiritual martial realm. Thus, at this moment, when they suddenly heard that the Tianyuan Kingdom possessed a weapon of the spirit martial realm, they were naturally extremely shocked. Weapon of the spiritual martial realm. When Wei Zilong heard Old Qian's words, he was shocked. Then, he looked at the weapon in Sun Shangxiang's hand and revealed a greedy look. This was because spirit martial realm weapons were extremely precious. Sometimes a spirit martial realm weapon was enough to crush the value of an Atman body cultivator. Therefore, Wei Zilong was also greedy at this moment. He wanted to obtain this weapon and give it to his father. After all, he would be praised, although a few of the people he had brought with him had died. But with this weapon of the spiritual martial realm, he could make up for it. At this moment, Wei Zilong regarded the weapon in Sun Shangxiang's hand as the weapon of the Fire Beacon dynasty. It seems like this weapon of the spiritual martial realm is really precious. Originally, Yiha did not regard this long sword of the spirit martial realm as something good. But at this moment, seeing the change in everyone's expression, they finally knew how precious this spirit martial realm weapon was. So what? Sun Shangxiang could not help but laugh. Give me the weapon, and I will spare your life. Elder Qian looked at the weapon in Sun Shangxiang's hand and said, "What shameless boasting! I did not expect the people of the Fire Beacon dynasty to be so shameless. They even want to snatch someone else's weapon." Sun Shangxiang said impolitely when he heard Elder Qian's words. "Ah-ha-ha!" Many citizens of the Tianyuan Kingdom laughed when they heard Sun Shangxiang's words. "You're courting death." When Elder Qian heard Sun Shangxiang's words and the surrounding laughter, he immediately felt that his old face was unable to hang on. He was also extremely furious. "You forced me to do this." Elder Qian's eyes were filled with killing intent. He had decided to use his trump card. He did not care about his own face. It was also for Sun Shangxiang. He had decided to kill Sun Shangxiang for the weapon in his hand. Elder Qian is going to use his trump card. The remaining Atman body realm behind Wei Zilong immediately said when he saw the scene. Yes. Wei Zilong nodded with a nervous look on his face. He had heard of Elder Qian's trump card, and it was extremely powerful. Of course, the consequences would be very serious. But at this moment, he was also very curious. If Elder Qian used his trump card, how powerful would he become? Thousand Illusions secret technique. At this moment, the spiritual energy in Elder Qian's body started to surge and change. At the same time, the spiritual energy in the surroundings started to rush into Elder Qian's body. This spectacular scene was like a breakthrough. But obviously, Elder Qian could not break through at this moment. But the aura in Elder Qian's body was constantly rising. Soon, he broke through to the spiritual martial realm. After reaching the spiritual martial realm, it did not stop. His cultivation and spiritual energy were still rising. What's going on? How did he become so powerful? And his spiritual energy is still increasing. He can't be breaking through, right? Breaking through? That's impossible. I think he's using some secret technique. Secret technique? What's that? You might not know, but there are some powerful secret techniques that can greatly increase a person's strength for a short period of time. But these secret techniques are very rare, and the conditions to use them are very strict. And basically, they have side effects. But I have to admit that sometimes these secret techniques are very useful. Because when one's life is in danger, they can rely on these secret techniques to protect their lives. You mean that the person from the Fire Beacon dynasty used a secret technique? Needless to say, he must have used a secret technique. And this secret technique seems to be very powerful. I didn't think that it could make someone from the Fire Beacon dynasty use a secret technique. Looks like this Sun Shangxiang is really strong. Using people and using secret techniques. Looks like this Sun Shangxiang is really a person. Using secret techniques. Looks like this Sun Shangxiang is really strong. Strong. Looks like this Sun Shangxiang is really strong. Chapter 1135. What did you say? When Elder Qian heard Sun Shangxiang's words, he was instantly dumbfounded. What kind of joke was this? He had already used his trump card, and you actually said you were surrendering? Under everyone's astonished gazes, Sun Shangxiang directly jumped off the stage. At this moment, only Elder Qian was left standing on the stage with a helpless expression. One had to know that the reason why he used his trump card was entirely to kill Sun Shangxiang. After using this Thousand Illusions secret technique, the aftereffects were very serious. His cultivation base would drop from the Atman body 10th level to the Demon Monarch level. Moreover, this drop in cultivation would take at least more than a month to begin to recover. Therefore, the price to pay was definitely huge. However, if he could kill Sun Shangxiang and obtain Sun Shangxiang's weapon, then everything he did would be worth it. But now, Sun Shangxiang did not surrender early or play, but actually surrendered after he used his secret technique. On purpose, definitely on purpose. Elder Qian could not help but think in his heart. Although he guessed that Sun Shangxiang did it on purpose, Elder Qian could not do anything. After all, the other party had already surrendered. He could not insist on fighting with him. Damn it! When Wei Zilong saw Sun Shangxiang surrender, he was furious in his heart. This was because he had sent Elder Qian to kill Yi Hao's people. But now, Yi Hao's people were completely fine. Instead, it was his people who had used their trump cards. How could he not be furious? Your Highness, please calm down. No matter what, we won this round. Seeing Wei Zilong angry, the people behind him hurriedly advised. Why did the female general surrender so easily? It seems that the Fire Beacon dynasty used some secret technique. The female general could not beat him, so she surrendered. But why do I feel that the Fire Beacon dynasty is not too happy when they heard that our Tianyuan kingdom surrendered? I have the same feeling too. Don't feel too much. You have to know that now that both sides are tied, the last battle is especially crucial. When the citizens of the Tianyuan kingdom saw this scene, they also began to discuss. Everyone, who was originally excited, became nervous at this moment. After all, both sides had 2 wins and 2 losses. This was a draw. Therefore, whether the Fire Beacon dynasty or the Tianyuan kingdom would win this competition depended entirely on the next round. This general has lost the competition. Please punish me, Your Majesty. Sun Shangxiang walked to Yi Hao's side and bowed. You did well in this matter. We are very satisfied. Yi Hao looked at Sun Shangxiang and praised. Because he was able to discern that Elder Qian's secret technique was extraordinary. Even if Sun Shangxiang fought with his life on the line, it was impossible for him to win. He might even injure Sun Shangxiang or even kill him. He was absolutely unwilling to see such an outcome. And Sun Shangxiang was able to accurately grasp that after Old Qian used the secret technique, he would immediately surrender. This made him very satisfied, because this was equivalent to directly crippling Old Qian's trump card. At this moment, looking at Wei Zilong and Old Qian's expressions, one could see how bitter they were in their hearts. This battle is especially crucial. You must win for me. Wei Zilong looked at the last Atman Body Realm expert. Yes, Your Majesty. The last Atman Body Realm expert under Wei Zilong also felt that the pressure had multiplied, because in this last battle, it would be fine if he won. But if he lost, his fate would not be any better. He was extremely fearful of Wei Zilong. After all, to be able to become the crown prince, it was impossible for him to be the crown prince for so long without some ruthless means. Guan Yu, the next battle is up to you. Yi Hao looked at Guan Yu, who was beside him. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I will definitely win this battle. Guan Yu said confidently. After Guan Yu finished speaking, he stepped forward and walked towards the battle ring. Unrelated people, get lost. Guan Yu looked at Elder Qian, who was still standing on the battle ring, and shouted. What did you say? Elder Qian was already extremely depressed. After all, he had wasted his trump card for nothing. How could he not be angry when he was treated in such a manner by a red-faced man? Your secret technique has probably ended, right? Are you sure you are my match? Guan Yu narrowed his eyes and looked at Elder Qian. Elder Qian panicked when he heard Guan Yu's words, you, because his secret technique had indeed ended. He was extremely weak at the moment. If he forced himself to fight, he would probably only be able to display the strength of a demon emperor. At the moment, he could not see Guan Yu's cultivation level, so he did not dare to act rashly. Elder Qian, get down for the battle ring first. Let me deal with this red-faced man. Zheng Wan said directly, giving Elder Qian a way out. Zheng Wan was Wei Zilong's last Atman body realm level 10 expert. Zheng Wan's strength was not weak, but he did not have Elder Qian's secret technique that could greatly increase his strength in a short period of time. However, according to his analysis, the Tianyuan kingdom had sent out enough experts. Guan Yu should not be stronger than Huang Zhong and Yin Liang. Therefore, Zheng Wan still had some confidence in facing Guan Yu. All right, I'll leave this red-faced man to you. Don't disappoint me, Elder Qian said to Zheng Wan. Based on Elder Qian's tone, it was obvious that Elder Qian's status was higher than Zheng Wan's. Don't worry, Elder Qian. Zheng Wan nodded when he heard Elder Qian's words. Elder Qian glared at Guan Yu and walked down from the stage. To be honest, he was very grateful to Zheng Wan. If Zheng Wan hadn't given him a way out, he really wouldn't know what to do. Red-faced man, if you don't want to die, kneel down and beg for mercy. Zheng Wan leaped onto the stage with a three-edged silver spear in his hand and pointed it at Guan Yu. Guan Yu's eyes were still narrowed as he looked at Zheng Wan. Why don't you kneel down and I can spare your life? How dare you? You're really courting death. Zheng Wan was furious when he heard Guan Yu's words and saw that Guan Yu did not care about him at all. I'm afraid you're the one courting death. Guan Yu still looked like he did not care about Zheng Wan when he heard Zheng Wan's angry shout. I'll take your dog head within 100 moves. Seeing that Guan Yu still didn't put him in his eyes, Zheng Wan roared angrily again and released a strong spiritual power. The long spear in his hand raised a strong spiritual power and directly attacked Guan Yu. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.